Well, a very, very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to round 3 of the SimGrid Sprint Cup here from Barcelona. It's David Christie and Luke Rogers here providing coverage as usual tonight. Luke, a very good evening, buddy. Round 3 already.
Yeah, we're starting to progress pretty fast through the season, and we come to a track which I think gets mixed emotions out of people. But tonight I'm quite excited because we've thrown in a bit of a spanner into the works with some track temperature. We're looking at around 40 degrees Celsius, so it's really going to change around how these guys approach the race, and I think going to make for quite an exciting one.
Keep it hot, hot, hot. Ladies and gentlemen, when Luke Rogers says that there's a mixed opinion, what he means is that he doesn't like the track at all. That's the. On that note, I mean, obviously we've all got our tracks that we like and we dislike. What is it?
I like the old layout.
What is it that you don't like about the new one, though?
Well, I'm a big fan of F1. Right? I watch a lot of F1, and I think the one thing this track is well known for is killing tires. So that's Sector 3. No, after the really intense loads of Sectors 1 and 2, you come to Sector 3 and your tires are basically dead from heat. And in F1 cars and open wheel cars, it's a real struggle. But in GTs, it's not necessarily an issue. So it tends to favour, I think, GT racing. This chicane is the thing I don't like, really. But I love the old layout of this track, and I would love one day if we could go back to it. But actually, I think they are redoing it, aren't they? They've just confirmed they're redoing it in real life. But it's a track where it doesn't, suit downforce cars, but it does really suit those cars that use the mechanical grip to get around, and that's why I think there's mixed opinions, right? Rather than people just outright dislike it, because when you throw GT3s around the track, it makes it much more exciting, and when you throw in really high temperatures as well, it sort of turns it into even though this is a sprint cup, it's survival, it's endurance of the tires, and that's why I think we're going to see a really slightly mixed up grid. I expect all the front engine cars are going to have a bit of a struggle in terms of their race pace, whilst maybe still good in that single lap pace because they can get the tires working quick. And also, cars like the Lamborghini, which so far have sort of struggled in the season. I think that 777 Lamborghini from the Coach C Racing Academy is going to have a really good night.
Well, we'll see how things pan out, certainly. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it's Luke Rogers' time to shine as we do the Mercedes AMG GT track lap.
On the main straight here, it's a fairly long one. It's somewhere where it really is the big overtaking opportunity, and you're heading towards the most festive corners in motorsports with the Elf chicane. You're braking around the 100-meter board. You want to get slightly off the track on the left here. Just slam on the brakes now, and then again you want to touch this inside curb, but don't go too hard on that anti-cut. Again, ignore the anti-cut, but you can get on the curb. And now for the long right-hander through the Renault sweep, I think it's called. You want to get wide on the exit here, but don't go too wide because you can invalidate your lap very easily. You're braking with the bridge here for the Repsol. Again, another sweep. It's quite a long, sort of open hairpin, I think you'd call it in rally. You don't want to go too wide on the exit. Don't get onto that grassy bit. And there's no braking marker here for this downhill hairpin of the Seat corner. And get out on that curb on the exit. But again, do not invalidate your lap. It is so easy to do around here. Braking with the curb on the right here, and you want to cut on the inside just a little bit. You want to straight line this next right-hander here. And now a really awkward corner. You can gain so much time through Camser. Don't really want to use the brakes, but you do want to avoid that inside curb. Run wide on the exit, but again, don't go too wide and invalidate that lap. Come into the Kaiser now. Really hard on the brakes here. You're down all the way to first gear. You don't want to touch that inside curb because it will really unsettle your car, and avoid that anti-cut curb on the exit. Swooping right-hander here down to second gear. You want to really hug that inside corner. Get on the throttle early because you can run quite wide here. Another right-hander here as we come towards the slow section of this track. There's that massive curb on the inside you want to avoid. And two more big curbs here. You have to be so careful around through the chicane. One more corner to go. You want to use that anti-cut to try and straighten the car here. And it's flat out through the final corner. Again, be careful running wide on the exit here because you can invalidate so easily. Now we come to the line for a lap of Barcelona.
Whew, that was awesome work there, Luke. By the way, I've got absolutely no idea what a track lap is, but I did actually try to say lap guide. There we go. Right, so we have got qualifying already underway at the moment, so we'll cut to that in just a second. But looking at the championship, It is really all to play for. We've still got another 2 rounds after tonight, but it is the Coach Dave Academy outfit, the Triple Eight outfit of Alaric Enslin and Gregor Schill currently on top there with 91 points, a whole 8 points ahead of your joint second place. It's the Jardier Community number 39. That's Jaroslav Honzig and Valentin Barrier in second place, along with the number 96 Sidemax Motorworks Evo there of Tinko van der Velde and Lucas Kreuzer. Now, another thing tonight, Luke, is that we've got some drivers that are not actually able to make tonight, so it's, one-man armies throughout the field.
Yeah, and it's not the end of the world. It's quite a short race, so that, they'll easily survive it. But it can be something that comes back to bite you. You tend to lose focus, towards the end of your longest stints. And I think all these drivers, especially the ones that we know, obviously Joe McCauley is someone that has so much experience driving. I don't think it's particularly going to affect him. But really, the thing that's going to be interesting tonight is that the sort of the makeup of qualifying is going to be so different to the makeup of the race, because you have all these front engine cars that need to slide a lot and need to really throw their car into the corners to get the to get the grip through the corners, that overheat their tires. And in qualifying, that's not an issue, because you push lap, cool down lap, push lap, cool down lap, and then that's how you get your good times. But then you come to the race where really you need to be pushing every lap, and there's Mercedes, the Lexus especially, the Bentleys even are going to start to struggle. So I think we're going to see not necessarily a normal grid. I think we'll still see those mid and rear engine cars have a nice day in terms of qualifying. But I think all those front engine cars that have so far done so well in the championship, I'm looking especially at the 889 Lexus, which is going to have a rough night, I think. But coming into this, the qualifying should be fairly close, and then in the race, I think those front engine cars initially going to have that bonus. But then when you come to sort of the end of the stint, where all the tires are getting a bit overheated and those front engine cars have been sliding all over the place and they've used up all their tires, we're going to see this sort of shift in performance. This should make for a really good race.
Well, 14 and a half minutes left to go in qualifying just now. We'll obviously give them a couple more minutes just to settle down, start getting some representative times in through at the moment. But, just looking through the list tonight, Luke, of entrants, we can see the 214 NSN Sprint Z outfit. Last time round, they had John Munro in the seat with Ross McGregor, but it's now back to Rob Taplin that's in the seat tonight, and completely biased fellow Scott, hoping that he can do a little bit better than he did last time out. And with the championship being so close, this is going to be such a pivotal round tonight, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it's a real opportunity for the 888 Ferrari to sort of make a mark and start to really control the championship, because they've already got that 8-point lead on the 39 Bentley and also the 96 Mercedes, which is currently tied for the second place. And it's a track that, partly because of the tyres, will really suit that car. So we already see them at the top of the timesheet so far. I don't know whether they'll stay there, as the 777 Lambo was looking very good in practice. And even the Porsches up at the front are looking really fast tonight. I don't know whether it'll necessarily stay like that, but the 888 needs to tonight. They need to take control of this championship and push forward, and bridge that gap to the front engine cars, because I think everyone will agree with me that the 2020 BOP has really favoured, the Mercedes. I think the Lexus has got a nice bonus. Even the Bentleys are looking really strong over a championship. So when you have these nights where those cars, partly because of the temperatures, are going to struggle, the other cars in the championship that are fighting for it need to have a strong one. And the big thing, I think, for the 888 cars, not necessarily to win the race, but it's to avoid any incidents and just finish right towards the top.
Yeah, I think that's some great points made there, Luke. And just saying at the moment, Valentin Barrier down in 22nd place. And this is the absurdity that we see here in the Sprint Cup. And I use that term very, very relatively. We've got 28 drivers within 9/10 of a second. That shows you just the level of consistency and the playing field that we have got going on here. We see some of the other championships that we do, and the field is spread out by maybe 2 or 3 seconds. But to have 28 cars within 9/10 of a second around a track like this, when the heat is so hot on the track, I am genuinely fearful tonight.
Yeah. And then you see all the way down and you just see the two cars that do not have good balance performance here, the BMWs and the Nissan. They're going to have a bit of a rough night. I think those cars, they already have that sort of not necessarily a penalty, but the downside of being slidey cars that heat up their tires a lot. So they're already going to struggle in race pace, but they also don't have that much downforce, so they're not that great through corners. And obviously, this is a track which requires high downforce. Obviously, there are those straights which you need pretty good straight line performance on, but when your car only has straight line performance, it doesn't necessarily have that sort of the high downforce grip that you need in the sort of the turn in that you need for especially sector 1. Those cars are going to struggle, I think, tonight, and that's why we're seeing them down at the back. But yeah, 28th place, only 9/10 off pole so far is pretty awesome to see.
Yeah, it's safe to say those chonky, thick boys are not benefiting from their extra weight tonight down at the back of the field. But there you go. This is Andrea Benedetti out of the final chicane coming into the final corner here. And look at that. Luke, can you believe that? Equal time, 1:43.443. In fact, ignore that, 1:43.329. Wow, this is. I don't think I've seen a race so far this season that is this tight at the top.
And you can just see so far that the front engine cars that we sort of expect at the front. The Bentley's 39 car, where is it? I don't even see where it is on the. Is it even here tonight? I'm not sure if it is. It is. 39 are very far down, but they're currently second in the championship, and they are nowhere. 96 car, third in the championship, down in 11th place. 889 Lexus, they're 39 all the way down in 24th.
I was just about to say that. I did see Valentin Barrier in the car in the 39, so I know they are there back up into 24th. But yeah, I mean, this is really, really intriguing to see how this is going to pan out right now, because I mean, I can't believe we've got so many drivers that are almost identical times or actually identical times. It's to see it once is something, but then like 8th and 9th absolutely bang on the money with each other. How do you think that's going to translate into the race tonight?
Well, I think the thing that's so awesome to see is, I'm saying that these 889 96 are struggling, but really they're only a few tenths off pole. It's not like they're far behind, so we should have this race where I think drivers are going to really struggle to pull those gaps initially, and sort of the first 10, I think the first 10 minutes of the race, we'll have this really close pack form, and then we'll start to see these breakaway groups. As people sort of settle into their positions, we should see maybe 5 cars at the front start to pull off, and especially I think that'll be down to strategy, because there are some cars here that will say, well, actually, if we just say we'll go about 2 tenths slower than we can per lap, we'll lose a bit of time here to protect the tires, and then you come to the end of that stint, and suddenly these tires are so much better than everyone else, and you can really push at the end. So managing your pace is going to be surprisingly important tonight. It's not something you usually do in a GT3. You usually just push. But when you add these track temps on a track like Barcelona, it's going to be vital.
Here's Raymond Mooney then. He was on a very fast lap, loses the pace that he had. I believe he was about a second up earlier on through the lap. Raymond Mooney from the Coach to Racing Academy machine, that 777. And the reason I was keen to see that one is because that was one of the cars that you said were going to perform very, very well tonight. The Lamborghini, the Huracan GT3. This is Bruno Sarai for Team Fordzilla, the number 8 outfit, and of course he is down in 7th place at the moment. What is teammates with Harry Spears, but Harry isn't able to take part tonight, so it's going to be Bruno on his own tonight. 2 tenths up so far coming out in chicane. Now 3 tenths up, he's going to come round the final corner. This is going to be a really, really good lap for Bruno Sarai. Can he get it hooked up? We wait with bated breath. Goes across line. There you go. 1:43.206. The gauntlet is starting to get thrown down, and I think we're now going to see some very rapid time changes.
And that's where the strength of that Mercedes Evo is sort of coming in through. And I said, that we'll struggle with tyre temperatures, but again, it doesn't really matter in qualifying because you just cool down the lap before and suddenly you're fine. So if you can get your Mercedes working, which has quite a lot of downforce, it's pretty good through the corners, especially for a front engine car. It should be really good through qualifying. It's all about whether you can translate that into race pace. So the 8 car and the 96 car, they should be able to progress quite far up in terms of their quali performance. Can they hold on to those positions? I'm not sure. And can they hold on to qualifying positions? Because the 777 is looking good. I don't know if they invalidated the lap there.
Yeah, I think that looks like it's going to win. But we'll see, because he's going to come across the line. He was around about 0.3 of a second faster, but I think that's going to have invalidated the lap. It has, and Raymond Mooney is going to have to try again with increasing levels of traffic on the field.
Yeah, and they were the fastest car in practice. The Lamborghini is one of the best cars around here. It should be flying, so I want to see them get towards the pole, because I think it's really important for teams like them. They're down in 7th place. They're nearly 40 points off first. If they want to have a shot at the championship, they need to maximize these nights. You know, the times when they know they're in not necessarily the best car. I'm still not sure in terms of the 2020 performance what car is best around here, but it's certainly one of the best. And his race pace is good. But one of the things that the Lambo might struggle with compared to a Mercedes is overtaking, because Mercedes is notoriously difficult to get around. So I'm sort of hoping that they can get that quality performance in, move up the grid, and then hold on to what they had, because so far I think this championship has sort of been dominated by those drivers that have qualified well and then held on.
Here comes Joe McCauley to dive all the way up to the top. He's joint top. How has that happened? Joe McCauley goes joint pole, 1:43.206. Oh my goodness me, that is bizarre to say the least. That's the second time this session we've had a joint time at the top. And yeah, what a time to bring that one out of the bag for the Coach Dave Academy 889 car.
And I know I've mentioned it a few times, but I cannot stress how hard it is getting that car working around this track. As a Lexus driver, you know, this is the car I drive pretty much everything. It is so difficult to get it working around here, because by the time you get to Sector 3, your tyres don't work anymore. So the fact that they're able to get that car working across an entire lap and put it on pole, it's pretty awesome performance. And it is a track that's quite hard to overtake at. So maybe that straight line performance that the Lexus has, it might sort of counteract the fact that, you know, they might not have the greatest tyre wear in the world, because if they can just get to pole and hold on to it, they're going to be in an awesome place.
Yeah, I think that is a very, very good point. Listen, we have to give a shout out to Damien Paulus there in the 686 Carbon Esports machine there. It doesn't look massively like a massive deal, Luke, but he's up to 17th. But the thing is that we just had that point out in his ear, in my ear there. He's gained 5 places just by getting 1/10 of a second. That is just crazy, and see that you can pull so many places. I mean, looking at Lindhorst and Martinez there, joint for 10th place there. It is so close right now. Even 17th and 18th, Paulus and Marchi are on the same times right now. There's so many similar times right now. But here's Luca Taverni for the Rookie Monsters machine. The number 7 outfit boots it out the final corner there, comes across the line. What can he do? It's only good enough for 3rd place there. So he lost it all on that final sector, Luke.
And it's really surprising me that that Mercedes and the Lexus are holding on, but they've put in some pretty great laps. And we've seen that, I think really what's happened so far is that all these, you know, the Lamborghinis, the Ferraris, they're getting to the final sector where they're, you know, 3/10 up on the pole time. And then they just seem to be losing it all in that final sector. And it's something that, you know, again, I go back to F1 because I think everyone knows about it. In real life, this track, pushing too hard in sector 1 and 2 kills your lap time. You know, they always sort of manage their first sector. You know, maybe lose a 10th in the first sector to stop your tyres from overheating. Second sector, you can push quite hard. And then that third sector, you use the fact that your tyres are still in the window to gain a lot of time. And I wonder if that's what we're seeing right now, where, you know, the Mercedes and the Lexus are maybe going a little bit slower in sector 1, because every time we're hearing in our ears that, oh, this Lambo, this Ferrari is 3/10 up coming to the final few corners, and it just disappears.
So what you're saying is that our producer Michael is jinxing the drivers as they make their way around? I think so. 2 minutes 15 left to go in the qualifying session here for round 3 of the SimGrid Sprint Cup. Those temperatures, look, are absolutely wild. 32 degrees air temperature, 41 degrees Celsius track temperature. You could quite literally cook an egg on that surface tonight. Gregor Schilt down in 5th place. That is a surprise for me, as is Bruno Sarai sneaking up to pole position there. 143, 188. It is going to be now or never for some of these drivers. And I'm just also seeing where the Jardier community car is, the 39. That's been punted all the way. Look at that, down to 21st place.
Yeah, for the car that's second in the championship, that is awful. And that's what this 888 needs to capitalise on. They need to get further up. And we've seen they had the pace. They've put themselves on pole before. They won Misano last time out. And I think they're up on time here, but they need to get further up the grid and maximise tonight, because otherwise they're putting themselves in a position where, coming to tracks later on in the season where maybe their car's not going to be the best, it's going to be a real struggle for them. I'm looking especially at, we've got Monza and Kyalami next. Kyalami, the Mercedes are dominant. Monza, the Lexus is going to be really strong as well. So it's vital that they find some time here, get towards pole, and then hold on to it.
Well, also to bear in mind as well is in 8th place at the moment, the number 96, currently in 3rd place in the championship. That's Lucas Kreuzer in the Mercedes right now. That is, that's going to be quite the upset if that's the advantage that he has going into the start of this race, because obviously that's going to put him in prime position for taking advantage of that start. Only 3 cars behind your championship leader as well on that start, so it's all going to come down to this final lap here.
And it's also going to come down to whether they can keep their car alive sort of through the race. I said that the track temps really come in, around 10-15 minutes into the race. That's when it starts to really hurt your car. And if they can keep these Mercs and that Lexus in the window, find a way to manage their pace so that they're not getting overtaken, but they're also not overheating their tires, then there's a potential here that, by controlling the front of the race, it sort of brings everyone else in first off, because, the front cars won't be pulling ahead. But second off, it gives some cars that maybe won't be the fastest an opportunity to have a really good performance.
Absolutely spot on. So qualifying comes to an end. The checkered flag is out. The drivers on their final lap. Great to see Joe McCauley up in 2nd place in the 889 machine, making good returns there. And a car just going very, very wide there. It looks like a Ferrari that is taking a bit of a scenic route. So Mooney here, the 777 Coach to Racing Academy car, the Lamborghini, is the only car that is potentially on an improved lap right now. So we're going to follow him round the final couple of corners here. As he comes up towards the final chicane, for me, Luke, that's the bit that I struggle with on this circuit. It just feels like it doesn't belong there, and it really destroys the momentum and the flow that the track has. But then you enter onto that final corner here as Raymond Mooney, still in the green, goes across the line up to 2nd place, 0.3 of a second there behind. But wow, Bruno Sarai takes pole position from Joe McCauley then, and I'd be very, very interested to see. That's 26 cars, Luke, we have within a second of the leader.
I have to say, that's a heck of a lap from Joe. I mentioned already, that car is not one of the ones that has favourable balance performance here, so it's really impressive times from him. And if you look at the championship now, the 888 being in 2nd place, if they can hold on to that, they're going to catch up to the championship leader. They're going to overlap 2nd and 3rd and put themselves in 2nd place, so that they're in for a really good night here. And it's all about whether you can keep that car in the window. But you look at those times, Joe actually setting the fastest Sector 1, which is something that I'm quite surprised by. But you look at how close it is. What is that, 0.03 of a second between the top 5 in Sector 1? That's ridiculous.
Yep. So here we go then. It's Sarai and McCauley on your front row for the race tonight. Luca Tavanari and then Benedetti in row 2, 3rd and 4th place. Gregor Schill and Arnold in 5th and 6th place. Raymond Mooney and Lucas Kreuzer 7th and 8th. It's going to be Robin Pagadel and Florian Becker 9th and 10th. You've then got July Sort and Henrik Gamble 11th and 12th place. Babin and Ferrier in 13th and 14th in row 7. Row 8 is going to be Kalachi and Hamer in 15th and 16th. Row 9 is going to be George Boothby and Paulus. Then you have got Antomarchi and Monaco in 19th and 20th position as well. 21st is a very, very surprising result from the Jardier Community Car 39 of Valentin Barrier and Jaroslav Honzik. You've then got Desperez and Vedi in 22nd position. It's De Havilland on his own in the Porsche 911 in 23rd place. It's then Ross McGregor in 24th in that Bentley Continental GT3. And if we can pop down a little bit further, we will give you that in just a second. We'll take you through that when they actually get onto the grid under 24th. So there you go. That is us ready to go racing here at Barcelona. What we're going to do just now is we're going to take a very short commercial break, and when we come back, we'll be live for the start of round 3 of the SimGrid Sprint Cup. So welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are here live on the grid for the SimGrid Sprint Cup Round 3 here from Barcelona. David Christie and Luke Rogers taking you through all the action. As you can see, the cars lined up, ready to go, Luke. And with 3 minutes left to go, what are we expecting for tonight's race then?
Well, I think we've got some roadblocks at the front. I'm not expecting that the 8 and the 889 will be able to maintain sort of front of the grid pace through the whole race, but I mean, we've seen Joe do more surprising things in his life. So I expect we're going to see a really close sort of pack form at the front, because it is a track that's hard to overtake. And I think everyone knows the Lexus and the Mercedes are cars that are hard to get past. So, we should have this sort of group of cars behind them vying to get past. And I think what that's going to allow is those cars that may be sort of eighth on back, that are not quite at the pace of some of the cars that actually are the fastest cars on the grid, will be able to hang on. So we should get this big pack at the front. It all relies on, I think, the 8 and the 889 holding on to where they are. But I'm also looking back at the grid and saying, the 39 really shouldn't be 21st. They should be higher than that, and I'm surprised they're not. George Booth being in 17th place as well. Another driver that's sort of well below where we sort of expect him to be. I think even to an extent 8th place for the 96 car. I want to see them going forward. And yes, they're all in cars that I've already said might struggle here. I still think they can go forward, and I still think they probably will. So it should be a really close and exciting race.
Well, here's hoping 1 minute 45, and just to give you your championship rundown then, your championship leader is, I believe, currently in 5th place. It is Alaric Enslin in the 888 Coach Dave Academy car, and then you have to go down to 8th place for 3rd place in the championship, the number 96 Mercedes of Tinko van der Velde, and taking over the wheel from Lucas Kreuzer in the Sidemax Motorworks 96 Sprint Cup car. And then, as you said, it's all the way back down to 21st for Valentin Barrier and Jaroslav Honzik in that 39 Jardier Community Bentley. I wonder if the weight of that Bentley is really, really giving it a handicap this week.
Yeah, I would expect that it's probably something to do with tyre temps, because it is such a heavy car. It's such a slidey car. I'm driving it for a 9-hour race on Sunday, and I have to say, as soon as the temps get high, it's such a hard car to sort of keep in window. Right? When it's cold, it's really fast, and that's what we've seen, I think, through the championship, those first 2 races. But looking further up to the grid, I'm really surprised that the 888 and the 777 didn't do better. The Lamborghini was first in practice. The 888 is currently our championship leader, and they're both in cars that are really good around here. So I'm expecting they're going to go forwards, and it was probably just a case of maybe they couldn't quite get their tires in the window during qualifying, like the other cars could, because they should have better tire wear and tire temps through this race. So I expect they'll go forward. If they don't, then it's a real opportunity missed.
10 seconds.
There we go, as the cameraman running Usain Bolt speeds here, ladies and gentlemen, back to the front of the grid. We've got 3 seconds left to go. Let's get underway then with the green flag lap here for round 3 of the SimGrid Sprint Cup, and the cars will be making their way round. There we go, they are underway. Bruno Sarai taking the cars round. Final thoughts from myself then, Luke. You've touched upon the temperatures, you've touched upon the lottery almost of where some of these cars are starting. I mean, I just go back to the point that this is such a huge round for the championship. We're at the halfway stage. We've got 2 more races. We've got Monza and Kyalami coming up next year. And I can't believe we're saying that, but January 14th.
March to me.
I know, right? January 14th and January 28th for the final 2 rounds. I mean, it literally could be make or break tonight here.
And I think the one thing that I haven't necessarily mentioned yet that is a real threat is crashes tonight, because as I'm saying, these cars at the front of the grid might not have the race pace to compete with the ones behind them. So what we're going to have is a big group of cars that are packed together. And when that happens, when one car gets a bit bored or gets a bit impatient and tries to make an overtake that doesn't quite work out, as I found to my detriment in a sprint race I did at the weekend, it can cause a really big incident. And when you look at the group of cars that are sort of in that sort of band of, in the incident group that could get hit or could become the impatient car, we've got 2 of the championship contenders in the 88 and the 96. The 39 has to get aggressive. They have to try and make progress if they want to keep their championship alive. So maybe they can to get involved in an incident as well.
Yeah,
there's a real threat here that I think some of the big championship leaders could get involved in an incident.
That's an absolutely spot on point there, Luke. And it comes down to that whole cheesy thing, and I absolutely detest every time this gets said, but it's the whole thing of to finish first you have to finish, and that couldn't be more true tonight. So we'll just have to see how the championship is affected by tonight's race. Well, we do have to point out, we have to say a massive thank you to Michael Hamlet from SimGrid for doing the production work tonight. He is a one-man band, so show him some love in the YouTube chat, please. And I'm really looking forward to getting underway here.
And I'm just excited to see exactly what happens at the front, because it's such a big unknown. I think there's a lot of potential for surprise, for drama, and it's about to get started.
Certainly is. So the car's making their way round through to the final chicane and then the final right-hander here at Barcelona. It's into the chicane RACC and then into New Holland to get things underway. And the car's looking a little bit scrappy. They need to get themselves back into formation. They do that very quickly. And already looks like Sarai having a little bit of a jump there, but the cars get themselves back into order. We are ready to go green here, ladies and gentlemen, for round 3 of the SimGrid Sprint Cup. And away we go. Green flag flies. It's a decent start from Bruno Sarai. And it looks like Benedetti, I think that is in the... Or no, that's... Shell that got caught napping there, and Benedetti as well, so really pushed down. And look at that, Macaulay up the inside. What a move. This is awesome stuff here, and we're seeing some penalties coming in already, Luke, but a relatively clean start.
some doors were banged, but that's about it so far. I was kind of worrying when we saw them going 3 wide into the first corner. I was still a little bit nervous that something might happen, but everyone stayed nice and well behaved. We've got through the first few turns, but now we're getting to this point in the track where if something happens to this downhill corner, it will cause a pile-up.
Yes, it will, and my heart is in my mouth right now as we see 2 cars almost coming into contact there. I think that was Mooney that was getting caught up there, but thankfully, all the cars being very, very respectful to each other right now, and that's all you can ask in this first opening lap. Keep it clean, keep it calm, keep it cool, and keep it, more importantly, on the track, as we see up there a little move being made. Joe McCauley still in 3rd place then, just behind Benedetti, who has somehow got himself up into 2nd place there. So who was that? Oh, there's carnage already. Cars getting spun round, and that looks like pretty much from 18th to 25th position getting caught in that. But Boothby, he's lost out massively with that, hasn't he?
Yeah, that's such an unfortunate moment there when you approach an incident that really you can't see it because of the nature of that corner. So you come round and suddenly you try to avoid it, but you've got a car on your outside that is also trying to avoid it, and this tiny bit of contact just gets Boothby round, and I think he got hit by a few cars as well, so he's going to have a bit of damage on him. He's already got that penalty owing to the fact that he's a solo driver, so rough start for George, who has not had the championship that I think he was expecting so far. And we said there was a threat of incidents happening at lap 1. I was expecting it further towards the front, but it happened a little bit further back than maybe we thought.
F in chat for sure. Now, hang on a minute. Have a look at this. Valentin Barrier for the Jardier Community Team 39 machine started in, what was that, P21, P22, and has already made up 7 places up to 14th place.
Yeah, I said he needed to get sort of aggressive and progressive through the field. He needed to make some things happen, and he's certainly done that at lap 1. I think he got a few of them from those spins. A couple of cars had to sort of fan out onto the outside, and I think he was able to just sneak through. But it's all about now whether he can hold on to that. Is it a temporary boon? Has he got there because he's actually faster than the guys who've overtaken, or are they going to come back at him now? And if they do, he needs to hold on and just salvage whatever he can get.
Yeah, so we'll see how that one develops over the evening. But talking about developing, Bruno Sarai now starting to eke out a little bit of a gap there. That looks like, maybe 0.3, 0.4 of a second ahead of Benedetti in the 132 machine just behind him from GTWR team. I'd be interested to see how that one catches back up, because I honestly thought that Benedetti, as he drops back now to nearly 0.8 of a second behind, I thought that he would have the pace to stay on Bruno Sarai's tail there. I think it's only going to be a matter of time before Joe McCauley gets that place back.
I was just saying that the thing that Mercedes and Lexus struggle with around here is the long-term tyre life, and it might have that single lap performance and that early race performance that it should be really good, but I'm sort of looking, when we hit that hour mark, are those cars still competitive? Because if they are, then they're really in a good position, because as soon as they switch tyres on that pit stop, they'll have that little period where they're in the faster car. So it's all about now, for those drivers towards the front, that they need to sort of get that gap going, and if they can, they're going to be in a great place. But we have to also point out that all those 10-second penalties, we've got a lot of drivers soloing tonight through various issues. 2 of them are in the top 3, and 2 of them are those drivers we're saying needs to make a gap. So they're going to really struggle with actually holding on to what they've got. And what we've seen so far is that small time penalties could be worth 4 or 5 positions in this league because of how close it is. So they're going to be, I think, really hoping they can do something towards the start of this race.
Just watching the body language of that Merc, it's looking very, very heavy right now, and that Mercedes, McLaren behind it is looking far faster and nimbler. The gap was nearly 0.8 of a second. It's starting to come down slightly between Bruno Sarai and Benedetti in the 132 just behind him. But again, it's now almost going to be a 4-car battle for the lead, and I don't think any of the 4 of them are going to be making wild challenges for the lead. They're all seasoned sim veterans, and I think they're going to be playing the game of discretion rather than trying to show their cards too early, because of what you just said there, because of the tyre wear issue.
Yeah, it's all about managing the race. It's not something we hear about often in GT racing, particularly because the cars are normally with track conditions, they can normally just push pretty hard, and especially when we're only doing 45-minute stints, usually tyre wear is not a massive issue. But when you throw in these kind of temperatures, tyre wear suddenly becomes vital, and it suddenly becomes a race where, you obviously you want to get gaps, right? You want to get a gap to the car behind, but if you push too hard, you get to the point where you start using up your tyres too much, and then later on they just come back at you and overtake you with ease. So it's all about, working out how much you need to push. Can I get a couple seconds gap and then sort of maintain it and just go with what I have? And that's, I think, what we're seeing with the top 4 right now is they've pulled a little bit of a gap to 5th place. I don't think they'll try and push too hard to get any faster, and they'll just sort of hold on to what they have, and at least try and manage it through the first stint. The second stint, you can get a bit more feisty. You can push a little bit more because, then towards the end of the race, you can get quite aggressive and defend. But with like an hour to go, you don't want to be doing that, because if you start defending with an hour to go and you're defending for an entire hour, at some point there's going to be a crash. So you kind of want to have this first stint be nice and calm, nice and relaxed, where you just sort of settle into your rhythm, and then you get more aggressive on that second one.
Just looking at the Nissan GTR here of James Bacon, and also the BMWs. Now, they were right at the back of the grid, but they're making some fairly decent inroads in towards the top 20 here. So be really keen to keep an eye on their progress throughout the race just now. But as we come up to 10 minutes already gone in the race, I can't believe that's just literally flown by. A brilliant battle is brewing for 9th and 10th position between Raymond Mooney and Robin Pagadel, the Lamborghini versus the Porsche there. I think, again, it's going to be a matter of time before Pagadel can get that move done, but we're seeing the BMW right on the back there as we do switch actually to Robin Pagadel. Look at it, he really is stalking that Lamborghini.
I love how you just look at the track map, and pretty much every car is just in that one big group. We have a couple stragglers towards the back that have been involved in incidents, but we have this gigantic pack of cars that are sort of stuck on each other's bumpers, and part of that is because it's hard to overtake, part of that is because you don't really want to be pushing, but part of that is just because this is such a close field, and we saw that in qualifying, that all these guys have such similar pace. So it should be, I think it's going to be like this for a while, with this big group. And we look at the times, and there's so many cars within sort of half a second of the one in front, and behind them they've got another car within half a second.
Looks like the battle for the lead is broken off a little bit. Bruno Sarai has got a 1.4 second lead over Benedetti, and I wonder if Benedetti's just starting to fall back in that second place now, because Joe McCauley just 0.2 of a second behind him right now, and that Lexus is really looking menacing as they come through into the chicane. So great job though for Benedetti, starting 4th, getting the jump on everyone and getting into that second place.
Yeah, and it's surprising me really that he's I honestly think it's surprising that he's not going forward more, because I'm expecting now that this McLaren over the long run is going to be really strong. So I guess it's just it's not quite hit the period where this car is going to switch on. Alternatively, Sarai in that Mercedes is just that much faster right now. He's pulled a little gap, and yes, he's still got the 10 seconds, which will affect the race. But even that Lexus is still looking really good. I said 10 minutes was where we're going to start to see, which cars are going to struggle with the tyre temperature. Right now, neither the 8 nor the 889 seem to be struggling as much as perhaps we expected.
Well, we'll certainly keep an eye on that, but as you said, that gap's now extended to almost 0.6 of a second. Here's the battle though for 9th and 10th place. We're on the rear view of Raymond Mooney in the 777 Lamborghini from Coach Z Racing Academy, and just behind him, that ominous figure, the 911 Porsche of Robin Pagadel in the 911 MSR Liga Endurance Team, looking very menacing indeed. I wonder, again though, he's had quite a few opportunities where if he wanted to send it, he could possibly do it. And I think, like you said, he's just managing the race right now.
Yeah, and it does two things. One, it allows you to sort of protect your pace towards the end of the stint, and just before you pit, you can start to push, because then you don't really care about tyre wear anymore. But the other downside is now, when you're managing the race like this, as you see them get the move done, Arnold moves up one more position. But the one downside to sort of managing as we like to call it, is if you now make a mistake in the pits where maybe you brake too early coming in, or you miss your spot by a little bit and have to either reverse or just go forward a little bit more, you can drop like 4 or 5 positions so easily. There's those sort of threats. If you manage a race like this towards the front, if you sort of hold the group fairly close together. So you see a punt there. I think was that the 7 car that got turned around
that
by
was
the 96. I didn't actually see any contact, so I'm wondering if maybe there was a bit of lag there because the cars weren't next to each other when the contact actually happened. So I think that was a little bit unfortunate for the 7 car there. I'd be intrigued. We can't do replays tonight, unfortunately, because we haven't got Mike.
Unfortunately, our production team can't do replays tonight, but I can, and I can actually tell you right now it was a punt from that Mercedes behind Lucas Kreuzer. So
did they actually hit?
Yep. Absolutely, you saw Lucas Kreuzer locked up the brakes straight into the back of Luca Tavanari and sent them spinning, and that has really affected both of the races there. So, that's a very, very welcome addition of our YouTube stream. Just simply scroll back.
And that's a big thing really for the championship if you think about it, because the 96 now, you'd expect he's probably going to get a penalty if it was, as you said. So I'm inclined to believe you. So, and another spin round there is I think that was the Aston Martin of the 345 gets turned around. Was that by Tavanari?
Oh no, that was Tavanari again. You saw him just recovering there. How to go from hero to zero in one fell swoop?
I'm gonna have a scroll back myself this time and see exactly what happened because I'm not sure.
I think
it was just Tavanari straight into him. Yeah.
Oh my days.
I think actually. Oh no, I tell a lie. It was the Bentley that started it, 39 by Valentin Barrier. So now both second and third in the championship have just hit cars within half a lap of each other. What that also does, because we have these sort of really tight packs, 5-second penalty for the 96 right now. That moves them down 6-7 positions in the in the standings. Same again with the 39 car. So both cars are in a position now where even a small penalty has a massive impact on the championship.
Luke, I don't know about you, but I'm going to go and phone the police because July Sorp has just been absolutely mugged into turn 1 there from Hamer in that 999 Porsche there. That was a brilliant move around the inside of the corner there. Just muscled that Mercedes out of the way and took that place. Absolutely loved that. That was great. You can see Valentin Barrier just behind him in the 39 Jardier Community Racing Machine. I'm going to be watching the penalties with keen interest because I think that is I can't see how that wouldn't be one for the 39 and one for the Mercedes that was up there as well, the 96. So I mean that is massive championship implications, and essentially that has just ruined their races potentially, and even possibly the championship.
The problem for both of them as well is if they start to push to sort of counter a penalty, it can actually really harm their overall race because they'll end up using their tyres up and falling back. So they're in this awkward position where they can't really go any faster. But not going faster means they'll drop back quite a few positions. So they have to now, I think, rely on the field spreading out a bit. And we are starting to see that towards the front at least. We're starting to see a couple of seconds gap form as everyone has sort of settled into their own race. I expect a couple cars slightly behind to maybe managing their pace a little bit, and the front cars, it seems, are just sort of pushing a little bit harder right now. Whether that's just because they're faster or not, I'm not sure. But one guy that's making progress, this 999 car, is starting to really move through the field a bit. I think this is actually the same as that Sorp again, right? Yeah, just behind it. So it's the same car he was fighting with earlier. But what we're seeing here is the difference in the car, right? The 155 good on the straights, 999 good on the brakes. So as soon as you get onto that front straight with the cars right next to each other, the 155 will pull it alongside, and the 999 will just have brake them and get the position back. So I think this battle's going to go on for a while as these two cars sort of get stuck on top of each other, and sometimes that can be a recipe for disaster in terms of instant.
Well, we've seen that Valentin Barrier isn't the most patient person in the world, and he's right behind July Sorp here and Yannick Hamer in the 999 and the 155 respectively. I do wonder if he's going to have to send it to get past the Mercedes here and then try and dispatch that Porsche right now. But the Porsche, a little bit of breathing room right now. That looks like, what, maybe 2-3 tenths of a second. Actually, it's 5 tenths of a second that he has got over July Sorp there, as we have a look at the external shot here in Spain. 1 hour 14 left to go on the SimGrid Sprint Cup Round 3 here at Barcelona. It's still Bruno Sarai with a 1.7 second lead over your second place driver there of Benedetti in the McLaren, and then it is Joe McCauley in the 889 Lexus, doing a fantastic job, you've got to say, of keeping that thing, and not just keeping that thing up in the top 3, but a commanding lead over Gregor Schill. That's nearly 2 seconds now.
I think that's really a sign of the track that the 2 second lead is commanding. it's actually an accurate way of describing it. And it also, I definitely feel like he's capable of getting that overtake done on the 132. So I'm wondering if he's sort of sitting here and maybe using that sort of extra slipstream he gets on the straights as a way of just sort of managing the car a little bit. By using that tiny bit of slipstream that you get, it's only worth probably about 2 tenths of a second on both the straights overall. But you can use that to, maybe take a little bit less speed through the final turn and through, through that fast right-hander in the middle sector. If you can just sort of lose a little bit of tire temperature through there and manage it a little bit and use the slipstream in your own car to bring it back, you're actually putting yourself in a position where you're protecting the tires that, it is those left sides that are going to struggle. So if you can protect them a little bit in those kind of corners, you're putting yourself in terms of long term, a really good position. So I wonder if Joe's sort of sitting here right now, biding his time, and it's definitely time will tell whether it'll actually work. Whether the tire will still be so much in this car that it doesn't really matter. But for now, it's looking pretty good.
Yeah, it's looking very, very cool, calm and collected right now, as we have already scratched off 15 minutes of the race so far. It's Sarai from Benedetti, and then Joe McCauley in 3rd place, Gregor Schill in 4th, with Sean Arnold in 5th. It's Florian Becker in 6th place, Raymond Mooney in 7th place there, Robin Pagadel in 8th, Lucas Kreuzer in that 9th place, and then Yannick Hamer in 10th place, rounded out your top 10 so far. And as we said already, huge championship implications with the fact that Gregor Schill up into 4th place, untroubled really. His nearest championship contender is in 12th place, 9th place, Lucas Kreuzer, and then 12th place for the Jardier Community Car, the number 39. Oh my goodness me, James Havilandi, what are you at? What was that all about? Goodness me. 5 of them almost trying to make it into turn 1, but no such luck there. And is that a Porsche in the background? I think that's Babin. Babin's looking very, very fighty right now. And I'm pretty sure that all that's doing is just trying to make himself as big as possible in the rear view mirror.
And what we're sort of seeing right now is that there's only one real consistent overtaking opportunity with this grid, with these temperatures. It's sort of that turn 1-2 complex where cars need to make that overtake happen, and we're seeing certain cars that are maybe not necessarily getting the straight line performance that they need to properly pull alongside, get that side-by-side run, and then through the Elf chicane, they're just getting that door banging. And if you're the car trying to overtake, you get the inside for turn 1, but as soon as you get on the outside for turn 2, you just get pushed off onto that curbing into sort of the green area of the track, and it really is a struggle, being in that position to try and get any pace out of the car. So it's such a difficult track to overtake, and that's why we have these groups forming of cars that, in this pack of cars, there's probably 2 or 3 that can make a fair bit of forward progress if they got through. But it's a big if. It's a very big if. And right now, I think the Havilland is a great example of a car that probably could progress and overtake a couple of the cars in front. It just doesn't quite have the performance to overtake. He's already gained 8 places, so on a track that's difficult to overtake, him and Valentin Barrier are putting in really good performances.
Yeah, you have to say as well that Paulus in the 686 Ferrari in 14th place, just ahead of him, really seems to be a bit of a barrier right now, because look at that, that's what, about 10 cars that he's got behind him, and again that just shows the level of competition that we've got with these drivers here tonight. It's not necessarily that he is, a particularly slow driver. It's just they are that even, they are that equally matched as pace. It's just I've never really seen any of the like on SimGrid.
Well, we see the update for the penalties there. The 39s, is that a 15-second penalty that's come through on them? You know, if I do some maths quick, is that all the way down to like 25th, I think, or 24th, something like that. Obviously, there's a couple penalties behind that will, give him a few places back. But all that progress that he's made since the start, coming from 21st, completely undone by a penalty of his own making.
Now, interestingly, that was an incident that happened after the incident for the 96, but the 96 not shown as having a penalty. So I wonder if they're maybe not getting one. That'll be a very, very interesting turnout.
Very unlikely. I believe that 96 is currently under investigation, so they might have got the report for the 39 incident first.
Or it might have just been much more clear cut.
Yeah, so because the investigations are manual, you have to submit the evidence. So I would expect the 39's probably just submitted it first, because we are hearing that the 96 is under investigation now. So I think it's coming in short order.
That is a devastating penalty. I mean, if that is 15 seconds for that, which it very likely is, how do you recover from that, Luke?
I don't think you do. I think that's the best way to put it. You don't. And now you just have to pray that your other championship contenders are also in strife. Because you look at the front of the grid. Actually, if we do that, the 889 has snuck through. He's managed to overtake the McLaren. So what I was saying with maybe the Lexus and the Merc were going to fall back, it doesn't seem to be the case right now. I think that's just a testament to how fast those guys are, because in terms of balanced performance, you're expecting it. But we look to the 888, the current championship leader. In terms of the time penalties above them, they're actually currently in second place. Overall, they will get as things stand, they'll get the positions on the 8 and the 889. And then you look back to the 96 car as they get a penalty, the 39 as they get a penalty. They're going to fall back. In the 889, obviously fourth place in the championship right now. On track they're ahead, but with that time penalty, they would be behind the 888, so they'd fall behind even more. So really, the 888's in a really strong position. That car is looking good for the sort of taking control of the championship and extending their lead. Coming to two tracks where maybe the Ferrari EU is not necessarily going to be the best car, especially in Monza. I think it's going to struggle a little bit compared to the big Grunty boys of the Lexus and the Merc. Kiel Army, it's a bit 50-50. We saw one do quite well in the World Cup, right? So it's they're in a really good position now. I think if they can maintain sort of overall second place for the championship, they're going to be in a strong spot.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very good point there, as Joe McCauley, as you pointed out earlier there, Luke, up in second place ahead of Benedetti in the 132 Merc. Next on the hit list is going to be Gregor Schill in that treble 8 Ferrari. He is dropping back a little bit though. That gap was 8 tenths of a second, now down to 9 tenths. I wonder if that's because Benedetti still has the slight advantage there of having the tow from Joe McCauley there, but I wonder if it's going to be a matter of time here for Gregor Schill. Although, to be fair, championship-wise, he just has to sit back. He just has to get some good points out of tonight and have a clean race.
There is also the case to be made, though, that yes, you're already in a pretty decent position in sort of overall second place, but you're 9 tenths behind overall first. If you can get that and win your second race in a row, you're going to put yourself in an even stronger position. They certainly have the pace for it right now. I think part of what we're seeing there is just the cars better in different places. Joe's in qualifying was fastest in sector 1. I believe it was the 132 was fastest in sector 2, and the 888 was sort of good overall. So I think the reason why we're sort of seeing a bit of fluctuation in the gaps is maybe that. Maybe the cars are better in certain places. But if they can get that overall win, they're going to pull like a 20-point lead on second place.
Yeah, and that is going to be potentially huge and championship changing as we go through the rest of the season. As we said, just 2 more races left to go in this championship after tonight. So this is going to be almost certainly a pivotal night, and we can see their confirmation. The 96 Merc, Lucas Kreuzer, 15-second penalty applied onto them, and that has pretty much sunk a hole in their fight for tonight. The avoidable contact confirmed there from race control between cars 7 and 96 there. So, yeah, I mean, that is a monumental blow to their championship hopes.
Yeah, first we saw the Titanic hit an iceberg with the 39 Bentley, and now we're seeing another pretty big iceberg that's hit another big boat there, the Mercedes, putting them both in a very rough position in terms of the championship. I was trying to think of another boat that got hit by an iceberg, and I couldn't think of one. So we only had the Titanic with the Bentley, but
you mean
both
the
of them
boat
being second and third in the championship, with first place effective second place overall. With how far down they're going to fall, I'd almost argue that they might actually fall out of contention. It might be that far behind.
Well, back to the battle here for 10th and 11th place here. This is Yannick Hamer fighting it out with July Sorp here, and this is getting all sorts of fighty right now. And have a look behind, because Valentin Barrier has just decided to leave these two to it and fight it off. And I wonder if that's maybe a little bit of trying to look after the car and trying to look after themselves, because you do get that really gut feeling that something bad is going to happen between Yannick Hamer and July Sorp here.
Yeah, we've seen them be quite respectful, I think, with each other so far. You know, they've been fighting. We see a little bit of a love tap.
What was that?
No harm done though. No harm. That's a bit of harm done to the 999 Porsche. He doesn't leave any room for the 155 Merc, which has actually slipped through now, and I'm defending pretty hard. I said it was respectful. They're anything but right now, as they're getting very feisty, and this is bringing Valentin in the 39 car, and it's actually a real issue for him as they almost go 3 wide coming to the downhill hairpin.
Oh, you saw that one coming. A bit of push to pass, and Valentin Barrier gets caught up in that. But have a look at that. Antomarchi takes all 3 of them and almost makes fools out of all of them. So Valentin Barrier has to off the throttle again. More contact going right, and he's been sent off to the moon. That is Yannick Hamer, I think that was in Porsche, that has been sent into the barriers from Antomarchi. That's going to be a big slap of the wrist there on Antomarchi there. Just kept the foot in the throttle, Luke, and wow.
I don't think he necessarily did anything wrong. You know, they were side by side into a corner where really you can't go side by side. So it's just for me, I think it's definitely a case to be made there that it was just a bit of an unfortunate racing incident. Whether the stewards will see the same, I'm not sure. But yeah, that all really started with, you know, what I was saying had been a fairly respectful battle between the Mercedes and the Porsche, turned into a bit of a fist fight as they started bumping into each other and pushing each other off the track, and there was only one way that was going to end, really.
Watching that back, I have to take that back. I think you're absolutely spot on, Luke. I think that there could have been more room given, but ultimately the way that started, that really didn't need to go down the way it did. What a move though from Valentin Barrier from a million miles back down out the turn 1 on Antomarchi in the 181 Ferrari there. Adrian Antomarchi has been sent packing back the way, and what a move there. That moves Barrier up into 11th place and hunting now down July Sorp.
The problem really is that, you know, yes, Barrier is making all this progress, but you know, you look behind him and all those gaps are so small. Half a second, 2 tenths, 1 second, 3 tenths, 6 tenths. With that 15-second penalty sort of hanging behind him, you know, ready to put the dagger in the back, all this progress he's making is really not doing much for his overall finish. So
when we were looking at that, we missed a pretty heavy overtake going in from Sean Arnold in the 38 Ford Zilla machine, normally teamed up with Dan King. Dan's not able to make it with us tonight, but Sean up into 4th position, and I've got to say, I think he's on pace to actually catch up Benedetti for that 3rd position as we come up, ladies and gentlemen, to an hour to go. 30 minutes on the clock here at the SimGrid round number 3. What on earth is going on here? We're having a look at Damien Paulus, but it's slightly disorganised as we see Adrian Antomarchi getting gobbled up there as De Havilland going up the inside there. It's going to be the run down to turn 1, and who's late on the brakes? Let's hold our breath and hope they all survive. It's almost 3 wide in turn 1. Thankfully, they all see sense, and it's as you were. So Antomarchi takes them through that first set of corners there, followed by James de Havilland in the Keck Motorsport machine, Damien Pavlis, and then Luca Tavanari. Luca so desperately unlucky in that number 7.
What we're seeing right now is more like a game of marbles than a race. It's just a gigantic pack of cars that are so close together, sort of punting each other a little bit and getting a bit friendly, a bit over friendly. It makes it a pretty awesome race. Now, I said this track is not necessarily one of my favourites, but that GT3 kind of redeems it because it forces these really close battles, and that's exactly what we're seeing, and that's exactly why I love GT3 racing first off, because it puts tracks that are necessarily incredible in a position where they're actually going to have good racing anyway. And as we see those boards that are usually on the outside of the right-hander, they're just all over the track. It's just a sign, I think, of the race there. But this group it's been sat on each other the whole race, and you see they're getting friendly in pretty much every corner. There's bumps all over the place. I expect a lot of these doors have dents in them right now.
Oh no!
We're only a third of the way in.
Tavanari is getting sent backwards right now, as that was a great move up the inside from Kalachi, the 995 Lamborghini for Keck Esports number 2. And again, I still say this, that was a nice move up just at the back of that pack there. I believe that might have been, let's have a look there, was that McDade in the number 11 BMW, or is he on this group here? Because we just saw it on it was just into the chicane there. It'll be in front. It'll have been Babin on Gamble, perhaps, that we saw.
Just every single corner. Every time we go to a different camera, we just see a different battle where cars look moments away from a big crash. It doesn't quite happen yet. We've had a few small ones, a few door bangs, and cars being put in gravel traps. But I'm really surprised we haven't seen something bigger, just with owing to the nature of this race. But it's been a hectic one so far, and given the fact that we have an hour left to go, I think it's going to get even more hectic.
I think you're absolutely spot on here, and ladies and gentlemen, do not adjust your sets. You are not watching an episode of Seconds from Disaster. You are actually watching the SimGrid Sprint Cup Round 3 here at Barcelona. It's still Bruno Sarai up at the top of the field there, 2.7 seconds ahead of Joe McCauley, and it's then Benedetti in the 132, McLaren in third place, with Sean Arnold in fourth place ahead of your championship leader Gregor Schill in the Treble 8 Coach Dave Academy machine. Florian Becker in sixth place there, Raymond Mooney in the Lambo in seventh. It's then Robin Pagadel in the Porsche in the eighth place there. Lucas Kreuzer with that time penalty for the contact earlier on in ninth place, and then July Sorp in 10th position. We are keeping our eye on this 10-car train right now, led by Adrian Antomarchi, and there you go, that is James de Havilland getting a beautiful run out the final corner there. They're side by side, and surely this is going to be James de Havilland's move to be done on the entry to turn 1. Oh no, please don't say Damien Pavlis is going to make it 3 wide. Surely not.
What else would you do, Randy? Go 3 wide? Sounds fun.
Oh, huge contact. Didn't need to happen. Absolutely didn't need to happen. Antomarchi sent sideways, and that is going to send him to the back of the field there. That was really disappointed with that move. De Havilland is better than that, and yeah, that's very disappointing to see that. Already got a 10-second penalty because of the solo drive, and yeah, I can see other things happening. Who's that going wide? Is that Tavanari? It is.
I don't think anyone can keep their car on the track right now.
Tavanari's having a night to forget.
It is worth pointing out that a lot of these cars right now are going to be struggling with grip. So I think there are a lot of people that are maybe overestimating their tyres and the tyres' ability to actually work. And right now we see cars sliding all over the place. We see cars are braking themselves because their car won't stop. Maybe their brakes are a bit overheated, for example. It's certainly a thing that happens around here. So, I think that's one thing we're really seeing right now is that some of these cars are really struggling to sort of stay on the track. You sort of see cars that are going around the track, but they never quite get in it. I think it's the only way to describe it. They never quite get in the groove, owing to a lack of grip. And there are certainly a few cars through this grid that have been sort of stuck in that group all night tonight, and that's why we're seeing these small incidents happen where people outbrake themselves, people lose it going into a corner, or they just understeer a little bit and start door banging and it spins someone around. I think that's owing to the nature of how hot it is, and maybe people not being able to manage it. And talking of managing it, we were saying that I was saying that the 8 and the 889 at the front of the grid were going to struggle all night with tyre temperatures. I'm pretty sure they're racing on a track that's only 15 degrees when everyone else is on 40, because those cars just do not seem to care. They're up at the front, they've pulled a bit of a gap on third place, and they're just sort of holding on to it.
Yep. Good to see that they're really holding on to that, because you were quite sceptical, as you said earlier on there, Luke, but they've really been able to hold their own, and I do have that horrible feeling that penalty is going to be the one thing that decides it, and how badly are they going to be affected by that? That's almost certainly going to take them down to maybe, say, 8th or 9th place.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate for them, because all that good progress is sort of going to be unwound, but
my God, look at all the debris on the track.
It's the foam boards that are on the outside. They got smacked by someone on lap 1, and there's just been debris everywhere since. And I think that's pretty much a synopsis of the race as a whole. So it all started going wrong in lap 1. It's just continuously
flying everywhere.
It's gone all over the place. But I mean, we're seeing so many cars with these the single driver penalties, which it's a multi-driver series. So if you're going to race, there's various reasons why. I think some drivers are injured, some are just not available. Fair enough, but this is like the worst track to have a 10-second time penalty on, because you can't really extend that gap.
Yeah, it makes it very difficult to recover the damage that's done. But having a look at Kalachi, he's looking very fast right now against Damien Pavlis here for the Carbon Esports 686 machine. That Ferrari is really just a sitting duck right now as that Lamborghini roars down the back straight here. Is he going to pull a bit of a dive bomb into turn 1 here? I think he is. He certainly thinks about it, dips back into the toe and pulls out of it. Meanwhile, behind that is, of course, it's Tavanari. Of course it is. Having a look up the inside of Antomarchi, thinks better of it and sits behind him there. But yeah, he has had a race to forget tonight. Started, I believe it was 3rd place, and is all the way down into P17. He's been battered, he's been bruised, he's been thrown off the track so many times, and yet he's still up into 17th place, and one of the few that doesn't have a penalty yet. So that is going to pay dividends for him come the end of the race.
Yeah, it's been one of those nights where it just feels like he's the car getting bullied by everyone as he just gets punted constantly. None of them really have been his fault. Some have been race incidents, fair enough, but it's just one of those nights, and sometimes they happen. You always hate it when they do, but I always like to say that incident karma tends to come back in your favour later on. So at some point, maybe we'll have a bit of a resurgence later on. But yes, it's been. I think he's just going to forget about it and move on. As soon as the race ends, he's going to quit the game. Maybe go eat some food or go straight to and forget the race ever happened.
It's fine. Tonight didn't happen. Right, you can see there message from Race Control. That is Lucas Kreuzer. That is Kalachi. That is Monaco. That is also 349. That's James de Havilland. All under investigation for incidents. With 50 minutes left to go, and we're I'd imagine only about maybe 10 minutes away from our pit window, maybe even less than that, because we're coming up to the halfway point. 50 seconds I've been reliably informed from our wonderful producer. So 50 seconds for the pit window. Now, how do you think the teams or the drivers are going to play this for the ones that are swapping over? Do you think they're going to stay out as long as they can, or do you think they want to get the tyres on as soon as possible?
Well, I think it really depends on where you are in the track right now. If you're right towards the front, I think you want to extend because you've got that clean air. You're sort of driving your own pace and you've not been forced to push the tyres as much. But if you're sort of in this big pack here, if you can come in early and just get that clean air, especially if you're one of the drivers that's pushing and sort of stuck, if you come in early, get those new tyres early, and start setting, sort of go for the undercut, you can gain quite a few positions.
Very, very interesting point as we see Florian Becker being chased down by Raymond Mooney. Now, Joe McCauley has got a penalty there as well, as does Sean Arnold. Now, what I'm trying to figure out is there was only 2 of the 3 of them had penalties.
Arnold's the new one.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Oh, so it's because Arnold's got past Benedetti. That's what's happened.
Yeah, it's because the order's changed.
That's what's happened there. It's pretty bad when you start to try to figure out what's happened by looking at the penalties instead of looking at the actual cars and the drivers.
Yeah, but where's he gone? His penalty's gone.
No, Benedetti didn't have a penalty. It was Arnold.
I looked away from the screen for a second, and suddenly the third driver didn't have one. I was looking at.
See, previous point about looking at the penalties. Right, so Bruno Sarai's still in the lead, but importantly, he's only 0.6 of a second up. Now that gap was 2 seconds. So what has happened to Bruno Sarai? I wonder, has the tyre time completely fallen off? So he's 3 seconds off his qualifying pace. I wonder if the tyres are gone. And Joe McCauley now. You said you want to stay out if you're in the lead to eke out that gap, but that's just not happening. It's the opposite.
Yeah, part of the problem right now is he's sort of stuck behind Sarai. Surprisingly, the Lexus is the one that seems to be good sort of on the long run. But now that he's stuck behind a car, this is where you consider actually, well, maybe I can come in and undercut this guy. But it's just all about judging it. I think it's only something you can really do from the seat of your car. You can feel if your tires are gone. You can sort of see the conditions of the grid around you. Is there a car within a second in front of you that you can't get round? But you're faster. Yes, right. Well, you pit. If you've got a 5-second gap like Benedetti has right now, you want to stay out and you want to extend it and come in late as possible. So I expect Joe's going to come in fairly soon, probably in a lap or two. Sort of split it exactly halfway, just to maybe protect that tyre life. Because there is that one thing that's worth pointing out is if you extend your first stint, then towards the end of your second stint, you could be on nicer tyres. But this is something you have to watch out for. As they come out with the lap traffic coming out of the pit lane, they have to be really careful they don't get stuck behind slower cars.
It's going to be absolutely fascinating to see how this one pans out, because it might not even take to the end of the lap. Joe McCauley all over the back of Bruno Sarai, and that Bruno was so calm and collected in that Mercedes at the front of the field, but now he's having to fight for his life with just 47 minutes left to go in the race and just a maximum of 7 minutes left to go in his stint. So really this is damage control right now for Bruno Sarai, because at the moment Joe McCauley's just landing uppercut after uppercut in terms of these lap times going in. That gap was 2 seconds. It's now down to just 1/10 of a second, which is unheard of. Those tyres nearly absolutely have to have gone on that Mercedes in front. Right, here we go. More penalties coming in just now. Instance between cars 155 and 999. That is Kaminsky and July Sorp. 10 seconds goes to Kaminsky, and then it's July Sorp getting a 5-second penalty the lap after for avoidable contact. So some door bashing going on between those two just now. And of course, that was Yannick Hamer that was in that car. So that was who was involved in that one. Meanwhile, are we going to see pits going in just now? I think the Lexus is. Indeed it is. Joe McCauley into pit lane then, looking very, very hot as he goes in there. And Bruno Sarai is going to try and eke out an extra lap. I've got to be honest, I think that's a mistake. I think that Bruno doesn't have the pace to keep this going right now.
The problem for him is that he kind of needed to react to Joe, right? He needed to come in at the same time as Joe to stop him from undercutting him. But as the car in the lead, you can't really do that because the other guy will just come in, after you've crossed the line. So you can't really do anything about it. And now, there's that threat that Joe could potentially get ahead. But what we saw through this race was that Sarai was really good in the first sort of 10-15 minutes. He pulled that initial gap at the start and Joe was able to come back at him. So I think it's really the case that maybe he's got a bit more camber on the car, or he's running a bit more toe on that Mercedes, and it's getting the tyres working quite nicely, and then it's overheating them and killing them towards the end of the stint. So with a slightly shorter stint, there's that argument that although he's going to lose time now, losing time on lower fuel is better than losing time at the end of the race when you're trying to defend. So if you can extend this stint on that low fuel, even with older tyres, it means you're going to have newer tyres or you're going to have less tyre wear in your final stint because it's shorter. So it might actually come in handy. It's all about whether. Well, actually, it's Benedetti jumped Macaulay. Yeah, Benedetti's going to come out ahead of Macaulay, so he's going to take the lead. There's just 3 cars coming out of the pits for the lead, and somehow Macaulay's actually come out in last. I wonder if that's purely because of the amount of fuel they have to put in the car. Oh, of course, he served the 10-second penalty. So actually, with the 10-second serve, now Benedetti takes the lead of the race, and the 888, the current championship leader, comes into a second place.
Wow, huge changes there. So Thibaut Prost in the GTWR simulator giant truck machine McLaren comes out ahead of your then to-be race leader. That is a massive error there for Joe Macaulay. To be fair though, there's not much you could do about it. These penalties are applied, and that's what's cost him there. So he's going to wonder, oh, that's the 911. That is Kausch. So that is Jano Kausch and teammate to Robin Pagadel after all that good work. So that's cold tyres, and that has cost him dearly. Bruno Sarai into the pits. Let's see where he comes out.
And I think that's someone overestimating the ability of the car, right? You know, the Porsche is notoriously quite twitchy. Add cold tyres on a hot track and you make it even scarier. So just overestimating what he can do. Gets a bit of a spin and undoes a lot of the good work that his teammates put in. He's still in a decent place, you know, he's only down in 10th place. And I think he'll gain 3 or 4 positions once the pit cycle's through. So it won't be the end of the world. And he's still, got a potential to come forward. But, it could have been a fight for the lead, really.
Now, I'm watching Joe Macaulay in that Lexus now. He's already made his way past several drivers on the first stint here. Alaric Enslin in the AAA Coach Dave Academy car is next on his hit list just now. I wonder, because I think he is close enough potentially to have a look into turn 1 just now. And then, there they are, there's the Mercedes then. So the McLaren goes into the lead. So that is going to be Thibaut Prost after all the pit stops are done. There's Bruno Sarai in second place, and then it's going to move Alaric Enslin into third then.
Where's Sorp? Is he in the lead? I think Sorp's ahead. Oh no, Sorp's just come out of the pits, never mind. I saw the green mark on the on the standing as Sorp somehow jumped them all, but no, he's a bit behind them still. Yeah, he's still falling down. So Props takes the overall lead. We were sort of expecting that with the time penalties. I forget that you can serve them in the pit lane. But it's all about now whether you can hold on to it, because we know how good Joe Macaulay is at going through traffic, and so we see him overtake the 888 car and he makes it easy. It didn't even look difficult at all as he moves up to overall third place. We've seen this car, the Lexus, is a car that's great for overtaking because it has a lot of straight line speed and it's got a very fast driver in the in the driving seat. So can he make some progress and get all the way to the front? I think he can. Whether he will or not is a different question.
Great move on the inside of Lintorp there in 7th place. He's catched up rapidly to Alaric Enslin in that AAA Coach Dave Academy car, so he's going to be coming into the mix very, very shortly as well. That car looking very, very fast indeed. The track temperature is falling, which means I think the tyres are going to come back into the driver's hands very, very quickly. Sean Arnold there in the 38 Ferrari was a little bit better. He's now down into 10th place there. 9th. He's just past Kausch there. Of course, Kausch recovering in that 911 Porsche there. So your race leader for the GTWR team, it's the 132 of Thibaut Prost in the McLaren ahead of Bruno Sarai. But all eyes right now are on Joe Macaulay in that 3rd place machine, because, I mean, really, the pace that he was showing just before the pit stop, he was looking very, very quick indeed.
And I really can't stress enough how good this performance is by Joe. Without that 10-second penalty, he'd be leading the race. But he's in a car that historically has not been good around here. I mean, the 2020 BOP has favoured the car a little bit. It's given it a bit more front end for a bit less straight line speed, which is I think made the car really competitive. But this is a track where historically it's had maybe single lap performance, but it's not been able to sort of keep the car alive, especially in hot temperatures. And Joe's just been managing it perfectly, and I'm expecting he's going to catch this top 2 and put a really good fight in for the overall win. And coming into this, we were saying that the 888 is the car that is looking to extend the lead, but it's actually the sister car, the 889 Lexus, the other Coach Dave Academy car, that is sort of suggesting that maybe they could bring that gap closer, and it could be a battle between the two Coach Dave cars for the title, especially when you consider that the 39 cars all the way down in 13th place. They've actually done pretty well. Owing to, even with the penalty, they've not fallen that far behind, and then the 96 and 16th. But with those two down there, and with the two Coach Dave cars in the top four, arguably with the potential of both finishing in the podium, given the struggles with the tyre wear that the 8 car had, I'd expect maybe the 808 to come back to them at the end of the stint. If they can really pull a gap on those two cars, we might have that sort of 2-horse race for the title between the Coach Dave cars.
This is something that's very interesting right now with Bruno Sarai. Look, you pointed at it earlier. It takes about 8 to 10 minutes for this Merc to get its tyres online, and they've well and truly done that right now, maybe a little bit earlier than normal, and now you're starting to see how fast that car is looking. Certainly it seems to have more pace than the McLaren right now, and more grip, more traction, but all the while this is bringing Joe McCauley right into the mix as well. I do worry that there's going to be tears before bedtime as these 3 cars kind of trip over themselves, but yeah, this is now getting very, very curious with 38 minutes left to go.
Yeah, the problem is that he needs to get to the front and needs to pull ahead, because we saw with that tyre wear toward the end of the stint that this car falls off hard, and I do really think that Joe could have got the overtake done if he actually wanted to, and was just sort of sitting there and just biding his time. Maybe trying to save a bit of fuel to shorten his pit stop, because the Lexus is a bit of a fuel guzzler. But right now, he needs to get past this McLaren and then pull a gap, and he's going to go for it here. He gets to the inside. He's going to be on the outside for the right-hander, which I think will keep the position for the McLaren. And Joe almost knocked through as well. It was a close one there, as he almost actually lost the position. It's a really difficult place to overtake, because you basically have to get half a car length ahead for the right-hander, otherwise you just lose so much time. He just couldn't quite get there, but now coming to the straights, this is a great opportunity here for the Mercedes to pull ahead. He goes a little bit wide there. I think loses a bit of momentum on the exit of the chicane. But if he can pull back on the straight, there's a potential he can make the move happen here. Is he close enough?
I think he's got the throw anyway, because look at Thibaut moving from the left-hand side to the right-hand side of the track, covering off that inside line. It's going to be Bruno Sarai trying to take it around the outside. Have a look there, because Joe McCauley as well. Are you kidding me? Bruno Sarai around the outside of turn 1. What a move from Bruno Sarai in the Mercedes. That was absolutely sensational stuff. That is up there for overtake in the season.
And he moves himself to first, and crucially, he puts himself in a position where he doesn't necessarily need to defend the McLaren behind. And with Joe McCauley fighting here, he can pull a bit of a gap. If he can break that sort of toe for the Lexus, he can really put himself in a great place, but it doesn't seem to be happening so far. Joe goes for an outside move of his own. Can he make this one stick? I think he can. He's going to get past the McLaren. No, he's going to get side by side as they approach the left-hander.
How has that gone from a 3-car battle to a 5-car battle for the lead? Alric Enslin now in contention for a podium place as well.
Joe held on.
Still side by side. Joe held on. Joe McCauley around the outside of that corner. I'm sorry, what on earth just happened there? That is some of the driving of the season, as we see Alric Enslin getting all sorts of dicey on the rear gun of Thibaut Prost there. Thibaut Prost has went from 0 to 0 in the space of 8 corners right now. He's got a real chance of being back in 5th place when he started this lap in the lead.
And now what that's done is it's brought so many other cars into the battle, and what we've seen so far through this race is when you get stuck in this group, it's so hard to pull away. And so for now, for Thibaut Prost, with the 888, Coach Dave Ferrari behind the 111 Porsche and the 777 Lambo sort of sneaking up, there's a potential that he could really fall down this grid and fall out of the podium at least. There's so many cars now that are just looking good on this final stint, and it feels like this McLaren is... I wonder if maybe they got the tyre pressure slightly wrong, because it is worth pointing out that the track has got colder since the start. So if you maybe made a mistake in the pits and not quite got your tyre pressure change right, even getting it slightly wrong round here can have massive implications because of that sort of track temperature.
So this is the battle for 16th place there, ahead of Tim Truquet with Kaminsky and Tinko van der Velde in that 96. That was a championship contending car, and it doesn't look like it's doing much contending right now. The only thing it's trying to do is trying to make their way past here the Porsche of Kaminsky right now. Yeah, it's difficult to say that. You know that Tinko's got a lot of pace right now. They've had a horrid night.
Yeah, and it's just really that big penalty dropped them so far down the grid. And they're still in a position where they can make a few spots up. The car ahead has got that time penalty, but given the fact that they were already behind the 88 in the championship, it's the same with the 39 car, although slightly less severe given they're in 12th place. Both those cars have put themselves in such a difficult position coming to the final 2 rounds, and even though those 2 rounds are tracks that favour the cars, if the gap is just that big to the Ferrari that, even if that car maybe struggles on both tracks, it will just hold on by virtue of how big its lead is. They're in a really difficult position. Now, I want to see the 39 make a bit of progress, but then you look at the gaps, it's only 1 second to the car ahead, but then you've got a 6-second gap, an 8-second gap, and a 4-second gap. So maybe if they're lucky, they can get ahead of the 155 by virtue of the time penalty and overtake the 686 in front of them. But any more than that, it's going to be so difficult for that Bentley.
What I find fascinating as well is just how much strategy has played in this race. Oh, and that is the Lamborghini. That is Neath. So that's Eric Neath. And was that Honzig off as well? There was another car off there. I couldn't quite ID it. It might have been the 349 of Havilland. It was to Havilland because he's down away into 18th place now.
Yeah, that was the 2 cars behind Giardia that had that incident together, and it's an awful place to have it in that chicane because it's such a hard place to get back onto the track because you basically have to pull out into the racing line. So to avoid penalties, you have to take your time with it, especially when cars are so close together. You have to wait for ages. So a really unfortunate moment there, and another incident for de Havilland, who's been involved in a fair few tonight. I don't think necessarily been his fault so far, but him and the 7 car ironically are right next to each other on track now. Have both been involved in incidents all night. But going back towards the front, we're sort of seeing a couple of surprise faces sort of appear. I suggested at the start of the night that the Porsches and the Lamborghinis would have a good night compared to the rest of the season, and we're seeing that. Maybe not quite as much as we thought with the 111, the 727, and the 911. But they're all looking pretty good, and they're all really in a position where they could go forward if they got some good timing.
Yeah, I think that's a great point as well, is the fact that it's maybe some of the names that we've not really seen towards the front of the field. Certainly Richard Lindhorst, we've seen in the top 10 before, but the pace here definitely on for a podium fight with Alaric Enslin. You made a point about Thibaut Prost and that McLaren. Whatever they've done to that car has just not worked out because that car is falling backwards very, very quickly.
Yeah, I think it just has to be something to do with the with tire pressures because when the track temperature goes down, obviously you want to increase the tire pressures by a little bit. But there's also something you need to factor in is how your drivers sort of drive, if that makes sense. So I think a great example. I did a 3-hour Imola race not that long ago, and we found in practice that I needed to run on the fronts basically 0.3 higher than my teammate because he turns the wheel a lot harder than I do. So I tended to have nicer tyre wear. I was a little bit slower, but I didn't turn the wheel quite as much as he did. So I didn't quite work the front tyres as much, which meant that I had slightly better turning towards the end of a stint. And so what we had to do is because he was in the car after me, we had to plan the pit stop so that we'd increase the tyre pressures. But then there was also a change in temperature, so we had to then decrease them to match the fact that it got hotter. So if you get that wrong, you can come to a position where either your tyres are too low pressure, and then you get like a really unstable car, or you get too high pressure and you just don't get any grip. And I wonder if that's maybe what's happened here, is that the lower pressure means too much heat, high pressure means not enough contact patch. And it certainly feels like that McLaren is just not as fast as it was.
I think the fantastic point this makes as well, Luke, is to maybe those that aren't into sim racing themselves, who think that it's a case of you just sort of sit in the sim rig and you turn the wheel and use the pedals. It's far from that. Modern day competitive sim racers almost have to be, micro race engineers for themselves and to understand about the implications of changing the tyre pressures and changing the setups and changing the camber on the car before the race in preparation for it and what all this does. But for those of you that are out there that don't know about all that sort of stuff and really don't want to learn about all that stuff, what you can do if you're wanting to get yourself a little bit more competitive, head over to Coach Dave Academy, where you can go and grab one of their setup packs. Get yourself a professionally developed setup pack, ready to race, ready to go. Fire it into your system, and then you too have got a fighting chance of being up there with the pros. So head over, as say, Coach Dave Academy. You can use the simgrid.com. We've got a link on the website there. Get yourself one of the bundle packs, and really it gives you such it's almost an unfair advantage, really, isn't it, Luke?
So as plugs go, that was pretty much spot on.
Did you like that? We had
That was pretty good.
segued smoothly into that.
But yeah, I mean, I know I mentioned it quite a few times, but I'm someone that uses them, for my Lexus, and part of the bonus is that you have these guys that actually race them. So we've got Joe in the Lexus with the CDA. The setups come from their preparation for these series, and when you see them up at the front, they must have done something pretty good. And I can tell you that. Yeah, the Lexus setups especially pretty nice. I also have the Mercedes ones, because that's my other car that I tend to switch between. And yeah, for someone like me who I know sort of the basics, I know what kind of aero balance I like, and I know roughly what to do with the tires. But when it comes to dampers, when it comes to suspension, I sort of freeze up because I have no idea what I'm doing. So it's so useful to have that. And yeah, it definitely does help. And I think that's sort of proof in the pudding for the fact that the Coach Dave Academy cars are second and fourth.
Yeah, great point. As Joe McCauley still was catching quite quickly on Bruno Sarai, the gap now down to 1 second flat. Thibaut Prost opening up a little bit of a gap there over Aller Kensling. And I'm wondering about Richard Lindhorst in this place, because he is really catching Ensling quite significantly. And this is unlike Alaric. We see him as cool, calm, and composed, and the last couple of corners he's maybe taking the unoptimal line through some of these places. I wonder if he's a little bit rattled.
Yeah, it's looking a bit interesting, I think, from right now, but
that's the polite way of putting it, isn't it?
Yeah, the polite way to put it. There's still a while to go to sort of get in the groove, and I think that's again, I use my own experience. I say I don't like to do it. I do it all the time, so I probably do. But I'm the sort of driver that I need a few laps to sort of get in the groove. To get back in the racing. If I'm not driving for a while because my teammates are driving, the one thing I need to do is like sort of hop into a practice session and just put a couple of laps in to remind myself, or not necessarily to remind myself of anything, but to just get comfortable driving the car again. And really, in race situations like this, especially in ACC, where you kind of need to be in the lobby the whole race, you can't really do that. I mean, you can leave and rejoin, but it's always a little bit of a scary experience because there are a few bugs and issues with the game. But also, you want to be there helping your teammate. You can sit on a wide camera. You can give information on what kind of lap times the drivers in front are doing, what kind of lap times the other drivers in the same car of you is doing, and really, act as a crew chief. So you want to be there, and for certain drivers that's a real detriment because they're not quite able to just sort of switch on as soon as they get in the car, and they need time to sort of get in the groove. As I said, that's something I sometimes struggle with. And that's sometimes what you see these certain drivers. I think Props is probably a good example of someone that, now 15 minutes into his stint, he's actually looking pretty fast again, but he was really off the pace right at the start, and whether there was an issue with the car and tire temperatures, or whether that was just because he wasn't quite feeling the car, wasn't, maybe they made a couple of changes that he didn't quite like and that had to get used to. But, not being able to just switch on and adapt to the car straight away has a massive impact in your overall race.
It certainly does, because as you said, it's a limited amount of time that these drivers have got, and the drivers that can just switch on instantly and get used to the performance of the car are at so much more of an advantage, with the fact that we've seen how close the field is. I would imagine, looking from the times that I'm seeing here, roughly, I would say maybe 35-40 seconds would split the top 25 cars, I would imagine. Again, just very roughly. And that is a crazy closeness, given that we are, nearly an hour and, an hour and 5 minutes into the race.
You say an hour and 5, it doesn't feel like it's been an hour and 5. It feels like it's been about 20 minutes.
It feels like 3.
It feels less to me. Oh, my youth. There's been so much going on that I've sort of lost track of time. But it's been a pretty hectic race. There's been so much going on, and with these last 20 minutes, I was saying that sometimes in the first stint you want to be sort of a bit more careful. You want to sort of take your time maybe. If that first stint that we saw was these drivers being careful, these last 20 minutes are going to be crazy.
Oh man, I've got a cup of coffee here, and I'm kind of scared to drink it just in case the caffeine sends me over the edge in these final 20 minutes here. I think the adrenaline is going to be more than enough here as we see Richard Lindhorst now almost getting past Alaric Enslin. It's shown as fourth place, but he won't be in fourth place just now because that is Alaric Enslin just in front of him. So. Yeah, this is now starting to get a little bit sketchy. We did see him almost side by side. So he's just had his nose in front as he went across the sector line, which is why it's shown. But have a look at Essa in the background there in the Lamborghini. He's looking a little bit menacing, a second and a half behind there as well. So he's actually catching very, very quickly. And I wonder if Enslin is acting as a little bit of a roadblock because Prost is not massively fast. He's not on the pace of the leaders right now, 4.4 seconds behind them. But Enslin doing a 46.0 that last lap round. What on earth could have happened?
I can go fast.
And that's wow, that is. Look, that's
when you know it's a bad lap.
Dig right there, yeah.
That's when you know it's a bad lap. If I can go faster than that, something's gone wrong. I wonder if it might be because they're battling, because he has to defend in corners. You lose time doing that, and it's something I think we see pretty consistently. We saw it earlier where, when Probst, Macaulay, and who's in the Mercedes now? I can't remember who it was. Is it still Barrier? Not Barrier. Brain's gone. Anyway,
and
the top three that were battling in the front, it brought the other ones in. So every time you have these two cars where one has to start going defensive and you can't just make the move work. As Tinker van der Velde goes to the outside move, just about makes it work. He's going to get the move done on the 999. Moves up into 14th place as a car that's trying to salvage anything he can to save his championship fight. Moves up, so he's made a fair few positions up pretty quickly there. Those three cars behind him have all been overtaken the last couple of laps, so a nice bit of progress for Tinko. But as soon as you have to start defending, you lose so much time, and it really brings those cars behind you into the battle, and that's just what we're seeing with Enslin and Lindhorst. Lindhorst can't get past, but he's close enough that he's putting pressure and forcing Enslin to defend, and that's just bringing in the Lamborghini, the other Porsche, and creating this sort of pack that is fighting. That's what we're seeing here as well. Once again, we've got a bit of a pack forming, and that's part of the reason why I love GT racing.
Yeah, that's really, really why I love it as well. Triquet is being just manhandled right now by James de Havilland right there in the Porsche, trying to get ahead of the Ferrari. Looks one way, then the other. It's late on the brakes. Surely it's too late. Can he get it done without contact? They're side by side. I think there's a little bit of paint scraping. Oh, a little bit of contact, a little bit more. Keeps the foot in. Bang. Yep, saw that one coming round. Tim Triquet there. Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of 6 and half a dozen really. The pair of them should have known better. Yeah, that's...
Once again, the Havilland evolved in a 50-50-ish incident. It just seems to be getting involved in quite a lot tonight. I think that's the fourth one, really, where it's been involved in, where you can't necessarily place the blame on him, but you also say, well, there's a common denominator through them. At some point, you have to say, well, is it because you're driving too aggressively? Are you defending too hard or something? And causing incidents. And even though you don't necessarily cause the incident, by virtue of how hard you drive other drivers, you can really cause it. I think if you look at real life, you have those drivers that are known as being quite aggressive, right? And sometimes they get involved in incidents where it's not necessarily their fault. They've not done anything illegal and they get hit by someone. And you just say, well, at some point you realise that actually it's you being aggressive that is the reason why you get involved in a lot of incidents. And I'm not necessarily saying that's what James has had, but sometimes that can be the case where you get those drivers that are rapid, but just constantly involved in incidents.
Just watching the replay there, it's really difficult to comment on because you don't want to talk ill of other drivers. But from my
at this
viewpoint,
point, I think most of them hate me.
Yeah, that's fair enough. James de Havilland was late on the brakes. Tim Triquet had the line into the corner. James outbraked himself, sent it up the inside, and just very gently forced Tim wide. And I think Tim obviously felt aggrieved by that, but you could see Tim swipe across, and that's absolutely unacceptable. And then as a result of that, James de Havilland is the one that's on the track. Tim has to take to the grass, and you can just tell from the mannerisms, from the body language of that car. He keeps his foot in, comes straight back across, hits the back end. It's so stupid. If it didn't happen, he could have had him on the track and made it work. It's just, it's sim racing things,
Yeah, I was involved. So that league race that I said that I had last weekend, I was involved in. This one guy hit me 3 times in the space of 4 corners, and then it wasn't a red miss. I didn't intentionally hit him, but I tried to send a move that wasn't quite on. Go for a bit too aggressive, and instead that just caused an even bigger one, which is stupid of me first off. But it's something that happens quite a lot. I think a lot of drivers sort of have those kind of moments where they sort of feel like they've not necessarily been disrespected, but they're aggrieved by something that happens, and they do something stupid as a result. Usually when you're in a top split like this, you sort of expect that maybe that won't quite happen, but then you see it happen in real life. You see it happen in the top series in real life, where drivers will get a bit miffed. And to use a non-racing analogy, in baseball, if a pitcher throws 3 bad balls and the other team is leading by like 6 points, the batter will intentionally go out to not piss off, to not make the pitcher upset, and it's considered really bad form if you just swing and hit it, and actually just take the free shot. But for some reason, pitchers are pretty temperamental. But it's something that you see in racing as well, where people are very temperamental and feel like even if they do something wrong, if you then do something wrong back, somehow you're the devil.
What I hate, right, and again, we're talking about personal experience, right? Put yourself in the position of Tim Triquet, where that red mist comes down and you're just like, and he turns away, but he then almost takes himself out of his own race. Yeah. So now, while we were indulging in all that drama behind there, Zahir Essa in the Coach 2 Racing Academy car has got past Richard Lindhorst, and he's also now all right on the back of Alaric Enslin. So incredible pace. We saw that from the Lamborghini. We didn't see the pass because, quite honestly, we were we were enjoying the nonsense going up ahead. But wow, this is starting to get a bit fighty now.
And Essa was the fastest driver in the practice session, so I think maybe he's more surprised he didn't qualify, really. It seems like maybe they could have done a bit better in terms of their race pace. But he's looking to get at least 4th place. I think it's probably a bit too much to get 3rd. Yeah, it's only a 3-second gap, so there's still a potential for a podium for this team. But they were so fast in practice, and we were saying that we were in qualifying that they were the team to look out for. It just didn't quite materialise, and even these 2 Porsche drivers, we're sort of expecting this trio to be right at the front. I mean, they're close. They're battling for 4th place with Alaric Enslin, but I still feel like they've sort of underperformed it a little bit tonight, especially in terms of our expectations. Not quite got to where they should have done. But now I think we're going to see the move done as he goes round the outside in the Lamborghini. Can he make it work with the inside and second corner? No, Enslin holds on just for now. He's just about able to squeeze that Lamborghini out and hold on, but it feels like a matter of when, not if. That Lambo is looking mighty fast.
Certainly is, and we're coming now down to just about 16 minutes left to go in the race. I've got to be honest, Bruno Sarai looking very comfortable out in front, 1.2 seconds ahead of Joe McCauley in the 889 Lexus. Thibaut Prost 6.7 seconds behind them, but then Alaric Enslin really has dropped off from the back of that, 3.9 seconds behind Thibaut Prost, and then it is Zahir Essa. But look at this, Richard Lindhorst is still in the back. Also, the 911 of Jarno Kausch. He's coming into the mix as well.
We saw Kausch, he had that incident earlier where he got spun around. So he's been a bit of a salvage race. And now you start to think, well, what could he have done? If that didn't happen, he lost like 10 seconds. So he could have been in the 3rd place. And here we go, Enslin, Essa getting side by side once again into Le Kaiser. Doesn't quite happen. Once again, the 777 a bit stuck. And it's just bringing these 2 Porsches right in. They're so close together, but I do feel like it's going to happen fairly soon, as it just feels like the ATT doesn't quite have the car performance right now to sort of hold on to what they have. You know, we look to the front, and you're saying Sarai's in a nice position, but you have to remember, in the sort of the last 10 minutes of his stint, Macaulay was 3-4 tenths a lap faster. There's a potential with only a second lead that Macaulay could come back in this and win it.
We'll have to hold our breath and have a look what's going to happen in the final 15 minutes of the SimGrid Sprint Cup round 3 here, live from Barcelona. David Christie and Luke Rogers bringing you the dying moments of this race. And it's still Bruno Sarai, just 1 second. That gap's starting to come down even further now to Joe Macaulay. And Luke, you may very well have just called that. And if he does fall off, how far is he going to fall off?
Well, the gap to third is so big that I think at this point, it's a 2-horse race for the win, and a 2-horse race for second place as well. You know, just because of how big the gap is. You know, even half a second a lap wouldn't be enough for Props to catch back up, and I don't think he's really showed any signs that he's going to have any more than that. So I think we're sort of seeing that top 2 fall and a battle for 4th place, and it kind of feels like Props is in a bit of no man's land. No, he's doing the Max Verstappen where he's just sort of in his own race right now. Stuck in 3rd place. When I say stuck, I mean there's much worse places to be stuck than 3rd place.
Yes, there is. I would be very, very happy to take that. However, Joe Macaulay is catching up to your race leader around about 2 tenths of a second every lap. So we'll cut to him in just a second, because this is a riveting battle going on for 4th place. Alaric Enslin ahead of Zahir Essa, Richard Lindhorst and Jarno Kausch. 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th, as you see Lindhorst getting very, very hot into that final corner there. Into the final chicane before they come round this final corner. Prosto falling off the edge of a cliff there. That pace is just dropping away from that McLaren. And I think that is just the pace of the 2 leaders right now. Meanwhile, Lindhorst and Kausch side by side on the run down towards turn 1. What a move that was from Kausch. Great move, and wow, that was an aggressive take back there from Lindhorst. He is not having any of that. Firm but fair, Luke.
Yeah, and it's pretty awesome to see this, even this far into the race on slightly older tyres now, as they're starting to lose that grip. They're still holding it side by side, getting these overtakes done and giving us a pretty great show here. And once again, we're seeing that it's so difficult to overtake, but it's so easy to get side by side. All the way through the grid, we have these cars that are getting to getting alongside the other one and just can't quite get that final sort of 2 tenths of a second done to get the lead, or at least get the overtake done. But we're sort of setting up for the final 10 minutes where we're going to have 3, 4, 5 battles, even in the top 10.
Yep, certainly is. Right, the gap to the lead now, 8 tenths of a second, so we will go and have a look at that very, very shortly, because that gap is coming down. It was 1.2 seconds, now just 0.8 of a second. Jarno Kausch down in 7th place there. And I think the most he's going to be able to do is potentially get Lindhorst for 6th. I don't know if he's going to be able to catch up to the back of Essa there. Essa might already be able to make that move. Oh, I thought that was going to be a move up the inside for the chicane. But look at that, Lindhorst outbreaks himself. They're going to be side by side coming into that final corner again. A little bit of a nudge on the back of the end there. Thinks better of it, tucks into the draft. It's going to be a drag race all the way down to turn number 1. Which way is Lindhorst going? You can see that is Sean Arnold in the Ferrari as well coming into the mix here. We've got 2 attacks going on. Alaric Enslin to the inside, Jarno Kausch to the inside. Jarno Kausch takes the place and manages to protect that position as well, but meanwhile Essa is all over the back of Alaric Enslin as well. Joe Macaulay is second, just 7 tenths of a second away. Oh my goodness me, 3-car battle for 6th place here. Jarno Kausch in the lead of that group. Can Lindhorst be absolutely mugged again here and sent back down into 8th place here? I just don't even know where to look right now, Luke.
We need more than 2 eyes, I think is the best way to put it right now, to see everything that's going on. Yeah, we need Mike. We need the good Mike, the other Mike. What Mike we have? Professional Mike. But anyway,
right,
Macaulay within half a second. I mean, Now, I said that drop-off was a threat for Sarai. You know, he's been pushing pretty hard. I wonder if this is purely just that tire drop-off, or whether maybe he's managing a bit, because he knows, you know, Mercedes is notoriously a hard car to overtake. Right? I mean, yes, you're in a Lexus, but it's got the straight line speed, but you know, the Merc is good in a straight, and it's pretty decent in the brakes as well. So, you know, you're looking at a car that's very difficult to overtake. So I wonder if he's sort of managing the tire temps a little bit, and you know, whether this sort of push by Macaulay is because he's faster or because Sarai's dropping off a little bit intentionally. Which one it is really going to define what happens, I think. But I have to say, Macaulay's looking good for the win.
He certainly is, and it's only going to be a matter of minutes before we find out what's happening here. We're into the final 10 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. Round 3 all comes down to the wire. Joe Macaulay in the pound seats right now, looking very, very good for a potential race win right now. But to get there first, he has to get past that Mercedes of Bruno Sarai. 45 laps into the race, and the gap is now down to just 0.4 of a second. Thibaut Prost in third place, 11 seconds behind Alaric Enslin in fourth place, 4 seconds behind Thibaut Prost, and then Zahir Essa in that battle as well. And then you've got a 3-car train of Jarno Kausch, Richard Lindhorst, and then Sean Arnold in the mix as well. But back to keeping with your race leaders, Joe Macaulay in that Lexus has just towards the later stages, and obviously the Mercedes tyres fall off, but Joe just looks so fast and so comfortable in that Lexus.
Yeah, again, it's not something I expected. Coming into this, I was expecting the Lexus to have okay 1 lap pace and then sort of fall apart on the longer run. So I wonder if maybe the longer runs aren't quite long enough, because it's only a 90-minute race. You only spend about 45 minutes on your set of tyres, and you know, usually you're looking at over an hour on each set of tyres, and maybe the tyre wear is just not quite enough. You know, the heat is still there, but it's not quite enough to pull this car out of contention. And that's certainly what we're seeing, is that Joe's, by hook or by crook, has got this car working pretty well. But now Sarai pulls a couple of tenths back. As I said, there's a potential that he's actually just managing the race rather than losing pace. And that last lap certainly suggests it.
Just note in the timing screen there, that's Lindhorst has been passed by Sean Arnold. You can see that here on the exit of the final corner there. It's going to be the run down to turn 1 for Richard Lindhorst. He's now in danger of getting caught by Martinez just behind them as well. So Kausch is absolutely cleared off into the distance, trying to catch up to Zahir Essa and Alaric Enslin. And to be honest, he's very possibly going to do it. Macaulay taking a little bit of a breather off the back of the leader just now. That gap up to 0.6 of a second. 7 minutes left to go, and Joe's going to have to recompose himself and get back into the toe of that car in front.
Yeah, it's looking. I would say a bit 50-50 for Joe right now. You know, you can see how hard he's pushing there. He got a bit wide on the exit of the right-hander there, and I wonder if now he's maybe overdriving the car a little bit, trying to pull that gap in. And Sarai's just able to manage it. And with 7 minutes to go, you're looking at what, 6-7 laps left. Well, about 6 laps left of the race. You know, Joe, I think is certainly capable of getting the win, but there's that sort of threat of, you know, if you push too hard, you use your tires up too much, trying to pull the gap to a couple of tenths, that actually when it comes to trying to overtake the guy, you've suddenly not quite got the grip you need anymore.
But it's that exit through the chicane just takes him so much time, takes him right back onto the tail of Sarai again, and surely this is it. Surely now it is 0.2 of a second. He's in the slipstream. It's going to be a move from Joe Macaulay. Which way is he going to go? Right, he's going to try and shove it around the outside. Bruno Sarai having none of it. Can Joe Macaulay get the cutback? It's not to be. But almost contact there. They're side by side after the S is there. It's going to be Bruno Sarai up the inside though, holding on to the place there. And how those two didn't come into calamity, I have got absolutely no idea. It's the run down towards the next right-hander here. And Joe, I think, is going to have to sit back in. But you saw there, that was where the move started, was at that final chicane. The fact that he cut in early and really got a good drive out the final corner there, that was where it was all set up.
Yeah, it's so close for the lead right now. It's a matter of time, I think, before Joe gets at least alongside. But you know, I think that Mercedes is a little bit better on the brakes. You know, there's a potential that the Lexus just isn't quite capable of overtaking you. You know, you usually need sort of a second and a half of lap time delta, and obviously he doesn't have that right now. So basically, what he needs is Sarai to make a small mistake somewhere. You know, whether it's coming out of the chicane where Sarai doesn't quite get the traction down, which I think is what we're seeing, and is why Joe's catching up. And I expect that's probably where, you know, where the tires are going is on the rears for that Mercedes. You know, maybe a bit too heavy on the throttle, and it's just losing that rear traction. And we're going to see, is it consistent, or was it a mistake last time around? Let's see how well Joe pulls out of this corner. He seems to get a better run. Once again, I think his run's pretty good, and now, being this close, I think this might be it.
And just hearing on the race control radio there, the triple one car of TPC Sim Racing's Richard Lindhorst, after that brilliant run to get into the top 10 there, drive-through penalty for track limits. Oh, bit of contact there from Joe McCauley, and a little sideswipe onto Bruno Sarai there, completely unintentional. I'm sure it looked like both cars were unsure of where the other was going there. How that wasn't anything more, Luke, I've got absolutely no idea. How did they both survive that?
It was millimeters away from disaster, but millimeters are enough in this line of work, you know.
I like how cool, calm, and collected you are. You're like, it's fine, it's all good.
But are either the cars out of the race? No. So it was close, but not close enough for a bit of contact. And right now, Joe is all over him, but he has to set things up. You know, that's the problem. Is it's all well and good being right on someone's bumper, but if you can't set a pass up, then it doesn't really matter. You know, you're just going to sit here, and you know, maybe he breaks a bit early, and suddenly you make a mistake. And talking mistakes, there is a little bit wide through the right-hander. He might lose a bit of time here, but he's so close. He's getting that slipstream, using the slightly better straight line performance that the Lexus has. If he can stay this close coming into the final corner, you have to think it's a matter of time before he actually gets alongside and at least has an attempt. And we've seen in the past, Joe only really needs that one attempt to make things work.
Yeah, absolutely. But the other thing that's we've not really talked about, it's not just the Lexus overdriving itself. I think by staying so close and pushing that mark so hard, he's overdriving the Mercedes. So this is a brilliant strategy from Joe, just keeping that pressure on. And it could very well be a mistake from Bruno Sarai that catches the leader out and hands that on a plate to Joe McCauley. Here we go again then into turn number one. It's one way, then the other, and then Joe McCauley around the outside. Still can't do anything with it. Can he throw it up the inside for turn number two? No, he can't, and that has compromised him quite a bit on the exit of that there. But yeah, 2.5 minutes left to go. It's now battle stations, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's not just for the lead as well. It's all the way back here for fourth place. We see another battle between the 888, the 911, and the 777, and even I think the 38's involved as well. So we've got a four-way fight for fourth place. It's going to be I feel a little bit bad for Michael right now as he has to switch between them all to see exactly what happens. But yeah, I expect we're going to see some changes in the top 7 before the end of the race.
Well, we'll do our very, very best to bring you everything that unfolds in the next 2 minutes here for the round 3 of the SimGrid Sprint Cup. It's a 4-car battle between Alaric Enslin, Jarno Kausch, Zahir Essa and Sean Arnold. That's for 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th. But here are your race leaders. This is absolutely huge. So it is going to be, we'll switch between both of the battles as often as we can. As you can understand, I think this is going to come on to our last lap here as we come in towards the chicane. It's going to be white flag held out. Oh, look at that. It's Jarno Kausch having to try and take that position from Alaric Enslin. They're side by side. Oh, and has to lift out of it. And that leaves him very, very vulnerable, but he's got a place on the inside. Surely that is going to be 4th place for Jarno Kausch. Oh, a little bit of contact as well. And there we go. That is the move done and dusted. And let's have a look. It's going to be up the inside for Joe McCauley. That looked like very, very hot into the first corner there for the Mercedes. And they're almost tripping each other up here as this is the final lap. This is all she wrote on this race here. What has Joe McCauley got in the bag?
And he's got side by side here. He got a better run through the right hander, but he can't quite get the inside. And really, a lot of these corners, you have to be on the inside to make it work. But we approach another area of the track where suddenly it switches. You know, you go from wanting to be on the outside to the outside, sometimes being the strong position. And if you can set it up through the the downhill left-hander here. If you can get a good run and get alongside, yeah, this is a real potential here. And Joe just can't quite get that 1/10. He gets so close, he gets right onto the bumper, but he can't quite get any more. Runs a little bit wide there. This is a time where you can tactically use your sort of your track limits. Right? If you've not been off 3 times, you can go off a little bit, get a bit of an extra run, and not get penalised. Overall, Joe goes to the outside. Can he hold it around the outside here? No. The 8 car just about holds on, and really, there's only one more opportunity for Joe now, and he has to send it somewhere.
This is a masterclass in defensive driving from Bruno Sarai in that 8. The thing is absolutely as wide as a tank, and I've got to be honest, I think the move might already be done. It's going to be in towards the chicane for the final time then for these two. Bruno Sarai comes out on top, but that's a stunning run. Here we go from Joe McCauley. It's tail to tail between the two of them, but surely it's going to be across the line for Bruno Sarai. Bruno Sarai takes the win from Joe McCauley. Thibaut Prost is going to come across the line, an unchallenged 3rd place. Brilliant run there for Thibaut Prost. Jarno Kalsch is going to finish in 4th place. It's a drive-through for Zahir Essa. That is absolute heartbreak on the final lap there. Zahir Essa gets a 30-second time penalty added on. Alan Kensland then in 5th place. It's going to be Sean Arnold in 6th place. You've then got Martinez in what looks to be 7th place. Ross McGregor, cracking result for them, getting up into the top 10. And Jaroslav Honzik into 10th position. 21st, I think Jaroslav Honzik started. Ross McGregor started 24th. So that is an insane run for them. And potentially that's going to be, I think, maybe 7th place for Ross McGregor there. It's Simoszewski in 11th place there. Richard Lundhorst in P12. Jan Bierman in 13th place. Tinko van der Velde on that recovery drive 14th. James de Havilland, let's just forget about that race. That was terrible for Tinko in 14th place there. For James de Havilland in 15th place there. Jan Kaminski in 16th. It's Tattersall in 17th. Ivor Shermatinsky in 18th place there. Desprez in 19th position. And then we move on further down. I'll just get the rest of the finishers up for us just now. And there we go. Nowakowski in 20th, Neath in 21st. It's Sheldon Muscat in 22nd. What a result for Sheldon. Didn't expect to see him so far down. Gabriel Samiraro in 23rd. Novicki in 24th. Schumacher in 25th. It's Burrows in 26th. Felix in 27th, and Hinsai in that 7 car, 14 laps down. I think it's safe to say they've retired from the race. Wow.
I have to say, I was not expecting that top 2. You were saying at the start of the night that we were
that was
we were looking at Lamborghinis, Porsches, and maybe a couple of Ferraris to be the ones competing at the front. But just a masterclass performance from the 8 Mercedes and the 889 Lexus. Both of them managing the race perfectly, and it was just a case of just having pace. I think there's no other way to put it really. Is that they dealt with the fact that the tyre wear, it was noticeably severe for those cars. We saw, especially for the 8 car, that they really fell off towards the end of the stint. But it doesn't really matter when you just pull such a big lead on the guys behind. When you're so far ahead, it doesn't matter if you're losing a couple of tenths a lap. And really great performance from 2 slightly unexpected cars. And if you're talking about championship, we were expecting that the 888 was going to try and pull a bit of a lead in the championship. Well, that's not happened. The 889 is going to leapfrog it into 2nd place in the championship and pull the gap a tiny bit to the 888 car. But also, the 39, by salvaging a 9th place finish, a car that, based off qualifying, we were going to fall out of championship contention. Yes, they're going to be 20 odd points behind, but it could have been a lot worse.
It could have been a night to forget for both the 39 Jardier Community car and the 96 Sidemax Motorworks car. That's exactly the thing I would say with how bad things went in the first half of the race. The fact that they were able to get 9th place and to get, let's have a look, where did 96 finish? 14th place. That's about as really as well as they could have expected as a recovery drive there.
Yeah, it's giving them a chance, and coming to 2 tracks where Bentleys are at least competitive. Monza, it's not incredible for Bentleys, but it's not horrific. Kielami again is the same. It's two tracks where, the drivers can make the difference in terms of getting their cars towards the front after. I think a track where noticeably the Bentleys were struggling with single lap performance and maybe salvaged, a bit of overall pace and the race pace and move forward. But it was a pretty great race. I said at the start that it's a track I don't normally like, but when you throw GT3s on it, it makes it a pretty entertaining one, and I think that's exactly what we saw tonight.
It certainly was a very, very entertaining race. And let's go and chat to some of the drivers then. We've got our third place drivers, Thibaut Prost and Andrea Benedetti, waiting for us, so we'll bring them in just now. A very good evening then to Thibaut and Andrea. Third place, and well done, guys. You must be delighted with that result.
Thank you. Yes, it's a nice result.
Yeah, it's a nice result. Well, we would have preferred to be P1, but yeah, I think like Andrea said, it was a nice result. Obviously, well, we missed something. We were like a bit slower through the stints, so we were losing P1 and P2. But yeah, otherwise, I think we're the first of the non-front engines, so I think it's pretty good.
Obviously, a great result for the GTWR team. And talk us through that race. Firstly, for you, Andrea, because you had the first stint. What was it like?
It was very slippery. No, actually, we missed something because in practice we had much more grip, and during the race the car was sliding like hell, like even at the beginning with fresh tires. So I just tried to, keep a decent pace, but we were able to do much better. Not much better, but like 2-3 times at least faster per lap in practice. But overall, it was good because at the end of the stint we were with the leaders. So
especially you did a good start.
Yeah.
And Thibaut, for yourself, I mean, the McLaren, we noticed that it was struggling. It was obvious that the pace, you were really trying to wring everything out. But you managed to get up into that third place and clear yourself from all the drama behind. How enjoyable was that to have a little bit of clear air in front of you?
Yeah, so that was one of the things as well. It was difficult to race behind people. Like the car really needs clean air. So basically, Andrea was spotting and was telling me that I should try to do the best to keep with the P1 and P2 and get away from the others, and then hopefully I would manage to keep the tire fresh and to keep the position as well. And that was quite enjoyable, like seeing lap times a bit faster than behind, obviously.
It's been a difficult season so far for the GTWR team. 21st in the first round, 27th last time out. Obviously, that does improve things, but what is your aims for the rest of the season ahead?
Well, like we discussed with Andrea, the goal is to try to do the best on every remaining round, and especially try to get maybe one victory on one of the rounds. And that's the goal, I think. What do you think, Andrea?
Yes, I completely agree. We are too far behind in the standings, so we will just try to do the best for each race and try to win, as Thibaut said.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Everyone here wishes GTWR the best of luck in the remaining rounds, and we'll see you in the new year.
Yes. Happy New Year to everybody, and thank you, David. Thank you to the Sim Grid for the event as usual. Really quality event, and looking forward for the next round.
Yeah,
excellent.
Happy New Year to everyone.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, guys. Happy New Year when it comes round, and we'll see you next time.
Yep, bye.
There we go. That is Andrea Benedetti and Thibaut Prost from GTWR Giant Truck Sim Racing. And another gentleman that we're going to go and have a little chat to is the NSN Sprint Z driver of Ross McGregor, who, despite having a difficult start, got himself a decent finish and a decent top 10 finish. Ross, that was a wild race, but some good points in the end there.
Hi, David. It was it certainly ended better than it started. Obviously, we qualified 24th, which is kind of what we expected with the Bentley, about 8/10 of a second off. I think we were the second fastest Bentley, 10th off Jardy and his teammate. But yeah, Rob done a great job. He started the race, just picked off kind of slower cars here and there, avoided all that incidents, and handed over the pit stop, perfect pit stop. And we emerged, and it was like we were 10th, and we picked up a couple of places again with like 30-second penalties and stop and go penalties and things like that. So yeah, 8th from 24th is a pretty good result.
Now, obviously, you said that things ended better than they started. How difficult was it with the extreme track temperatures on the Boatley?
Yeah, it's pretty brutal. I'd imagine it's the same for everyone, but in the Bentley, yeah, it kind of drops off the edge of a cliff pretty quickly. And for some reason, I don't know why, the balance of performance has totally destroyed the Bentley's pace at this track. But yeah, it's just something you've got to manage and just try and keep clean, not make many mistakes, and crucially stay away from following cars in front. So luckily we had a lot of empty space there, and could just get on with it and try and concentrate on our own race.
Looking forward to the rest of the season, because it's been a mixed bag. It's fair to say with NSN this season. You were 5th place in the championship going into tonight. I think you'll potentially drop down a position or two after tonight. But looking forward to the races we've still got to go. We've got Monza and Kyalami in the new year. What is realistically going to be the aim for the team?
Well, I'd say top fives. Monza is not too bad for the Bentley, so I think we should probably aim for top 5 quali and hopefully a podium in the race. Arguably, we should have done that in Misano because we had pace to burn there, but obviously it went wrong in lap 1 and then just went wronger after that.
It's quite a Scottish term, that, is it? It's just went even wronger.
Well, there's a few other Scottish terms I could have used as well, but I settled on that one.
That's all right. Nobody would understand it, buddy. But yeah, look, all the best for the remaining rounds, Ross. It's always a pleasure to have a chat with you. Merry Christmas from everyone here at SimGrid, and a Happy New Year, buddy.
And you too, David. Thank you.
So I think that is all we've got time for tonight. Can't see anybody else in the driver waiting room. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is us. Luke, any final thoughts ahead of our little break?
Well, I have to say, we've set ourselves up for a pretty good new year. We've got what looks to be about a 3-way title fight between 3 cars that have been sort of having an ebb and flow, I think is the best way to put it. They've all been good sometimes, less good other times. And there's a real potential here that this is going to go down to the wire. I think it could be that it goes down to even just a couple points or a couple positions in that final race. So we're going to have a bit of a Christmas break, but when we come back, we're going to be in for a pretty good show.
Well, next up we have got more female racers, Zandvoort on December the 21st, and potentially a couple of other races as well. I'll have to check the calendar for that one. But as always, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to stay up to date, please hit that subscribe button on the YouTube channel. Up to 3,500 subscribers already. Thank you so much to every single one of you for watching tonight. If you want to hit a like on the video as well, then it'll make my ego feel a little bit better as well. But on behalf of myself and Luke Rogers, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Huge thank you has to go to the one-man production army of Michael Hamlet behind the scenes at SimGrid. For yourselves, though, as well, have a very, very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year if we don't see you. But we will see you, because we'll see you on Monday for more female racers. Have a wonderful night. See you next time.